Chapter 1625, Prelude to War. Are you here? A cold smile appeared at the corner of Darth Malthael's mouth. Through the Force, he sensed a pair of chaotic and dark eyes gazing at him from the other end of the galaxy. The connection was palpable, a collision of wills across countless light years. He also felt an overwhelming darkness, like a terrible tsunami rolling in from the far reaches of the Milky Way, blotting out the stars. At the heart of this dark wave was a shadow. Dark, evil, powerful. It was the most powerful Sith Lord in the galaxy, Darth Sidious. "I've been waiting for you for a long time," murmured Darth Malthael. That's right, faint murmurs echoed from the other end of the Force. Without hesitation, Darth Malthael pressed the communicator and spoke firmly. "All troops immediately enter combat readiness. The enemy is coming." "Yes," came the deep voice of Volgograd Kennedy from the other side. He didn't ask questions or waste words. After responding, he closed the communication. Within minutes, all defensive fleets around the planet Anji began to mobilize. Near the asteroid where Darth Malthael was stationed, a green indicator light suddenly lit up on an air mine, and then the entire mine gradually faded and disappeared into space. The stealth system was activated. Tens of billions of air mines deployed around Anji were equipped with basic stealth systems, and with their built-in batteries, this stealth could last for more than 3 days. All defensive fleets around the planet moved into combat positions. Fighter pilots rushed to the hangar platforms, and the first batch of pilots scheduled to take off boarded their fighters, ready for launch. Although no changes were visible from the outside, the entire Anji planet, and even the Anji galaxy, had become a massive war machine, ready to unleash blood and fire. In the pitch-black space, a dazzling white light flashed suddenly. Almost without warning, 20 massive figures appeared. These were cylindrical warships, each 2,011 meters long, the Invincible-class battlecruisers. The sudden appearance of these 20 large warships marked the beginning of the Galactic Republic's second large-scale attack on the model sector. Darth Malthael stood up, looking at the Republic warships not far from him, a ferocious smile spreading across his face. He opened his arms, facing the 20 massive warships, and laughed loudly. "Come on! Darth Sidious, I'm here waiting for you! Waiting for you!" His arrogant laughter was quickly swallowed by the vacuum of space, and even 10 meters away, the sound waves became negligible. But at the same time, on the planet Coruscant, the capital of the Republic, Darth Sidious, who was holding a parliamentary meeting, turned his head in the same direction without warning, a twisted smile forming on his lips. "Darth Malthael! Darth Sidious! This battle is destined." The two, separated by countless light years, spoke these words almost in unison. The outer orbit of Anji planet, at the Argonev-class interstellar base command center, was filled with the ear-piercing sound of alarms. The hyperspace detector kept sending out warnings. A controller ran over, shouting hysterically, "Strong hyperspace fluctuations detected. Very strong. Unprecedented. Republic warships have appeared. The number is 20. Model confirmed. Invincible-class battlecruiser. All hyperspace blockers from I-9 to N-17 have lost contact. The enemy ship is launching electronic interference. Activate the electronic countermeasure system. Attention all units. Enter combat state immediately." The command center erupted into chaos as countless messages and instructions overlapped, creating a cacophony of tense voices that heralded the onset of war. Volgograd Kennedy's face was ashen, his expression grave. The Galactic Republic had arrived. "How is this possible?" The hyperspace monitoring team operator exclaimed, clutching his hair. "According to the detectors, this hyperspace channel is still in Cha, Oz. There are at least 80,000 mass projections leading to the Galactic Republic." "The Republic fleet is here. Don't worry about it. Prepare to fight now," another voice shouted. "There's an abnormality in the hyperspace fluctuation. The U-77 hyperspace outpost reported that the hyperspace blocker they maintained was destroyed by a strong fluctuation, which also interfered with hyperspace communication. The V-81 hyperspace outpost has re-established contact," a communications soldier announced. They were also attacked by strong hyperspace fluctuations, disrupting their communication. "This is not a normal hyperspace fluctuation. Send experts from the scientific research team immediately." General Kennedy, we are under enemy attack. Instructions, please. Volgograd Kennedy stood in the command center, his eyes bright and his expression serious. He did not immediately issue a combat order. Instead, he opened the internal communication channel and spoke in a deep authoritative voice. The Galactic Republic is coming. These 20 warships are just the beginning. They are here to strip us of our wealth, destroy our homes, and enslave us. Defend our homes. Resist the invasion. Can you do it? I can, came the resounding reply. General, please order. The mortal sector is ours. The Galactic Republic will never get involved. Volgograd Kennedy's face remained impassive. He pressed another button, and a young general appeared on the screen. Jin Chen, Kennedy's trusted officer. So, what about you? Kennedy asked slowly. The Mortal Star region belongs to us. Whether it's Tang Xiao or the Galactic Republic, no one will get involved. Jin Chen's expression was fierce. What if I told you that Tang Xiao is in this galaxy right now? Kennedy asked. Jin Chen was momentarily taken aback, his expression shifting as he considered the possibilities. Finally, he calmed down and asked, what is Tang Xiao doing here? Supervising the battle? If we retreat, will he cut us down with his lightsaber? He believes the Galactic Republic will attack the mortal sector. He thinks that if the Republic comes, there will be Force Masters among them. So he came here, the mortal sector, Volgograd Kennedy explained. He stared into Jin Chen's eyes on the screen and asked, Can you do it? I will protect the Mortal Star area at all costs, even if it means joining forces with Tang Xiao, Jin Chen declared. How can you think he won't join forces with us? Are we two countries? And how can you think he will join forces with us? Are you and I really qualified to make such decisions in front of him? Kennedy asked pointedly. Your Excellency, behind us stand tens of billions of people in the Mortal Star region, Jin Chen replied. And Tang Xiao, he will not fight for the people. If necessary, he will sacrifice all of us. As you said, we are not qualified. He paused, then gritted his teeth and said loudly, But I can. I will fight to the end. I will fight the Galactic Republic to the last soldier. Volgograd Kennedy nodded, saying nothing more. He stepped forward, standing in the center of the console with his hands behind his back, ready to lead his people into battle. His back straightened as he shouted, All combat units within attack range, fire immediately. Target, Battleship of the Galactic Republic. 20 BBY, July 24th. After the Galactic Republic launched simultaneous attacks on the planet Salukami, where the Confederation of Independent Galaxies had heavily fortified the east, and the Yagodur Galaxy, a member of the Principality of Dawn in the west, the Mordell sector erupted into fierce fighting once again. At the onset of the battle, no one anticipated the extent of the tragedy or the far-reaching consequences. This third battle of the Mordell sector would ultimately signal the final elegy of the Galactic Republic. Launch! The captains of the warships of the Duchy of Leeming shouted their orders to fire. The main ship of the Principality of Dawn, stationed on the planet Anji, unleashed its arsenal as soon as it entered firing range. Countless pulse laser cannons, missiles, torpedoes, supermatter railguns, Yamato cannons, and particle light spears were all fired in unison. Despite the considerable distance between the two fleets, which made hitting the target unlikely, the Duchy of Leeming's actions conveyed a clear message. Resist to the end. Boom. An Invincible-class battlecruiser was struck by a particle light spear. The impact was so powerful that it obliterated the battleship's deflector shield and destroyed the main turret group on its left side. Boom. The entire battleship shuddered from the explosion, and the bridge was in chaos. The captain, lifting the tall hat from his head, screamed, Dodge quickly! Dodge quickly! Our ship can't withstand the particle light spear. The captains of the 20 Invincible-class battlecruisers issued similar orders, resulting in chaos as the battleships scattered. The original formation disintegrated as they maneuvered frantically. The Invincible-class battlecruiser, or Invincible-class heavy cruiser, dates back to 3,000 years ago, making it an ancient ship type. Despite its age, the Invincible class was designed during wartime, allowing for more unrestrained installation of systems and weapons compared to post-Rusan reform warships like the Prosecutor class and the Governor class. This unrestrained design meant that during modernization, more powerful weapons could be installed without redesigning the entire system. However, even with modifications, the design's age showed. For instance, the Navy of the Galactic Republic's heirloom, the XX-9 heavy-duty turbolaser cannon, could not be installed on the Invincible. The Invincible-class battlecruiser was originally designed and built by the Lundilli Interstellar Power Company. At that time, the Kuat Power Shipyard was just emerging, and most military orders were held by Lundilli. The reason these warships ended up in Kuat's hands was due to the Galactic Republic's decision. These Invincible-class battlecruisers were initially part of Coruscant's defense fleet. When the Supreme Strategic Command decided to use the Kuat Power Shipyard to launch the battle in the Mordell sector, they handed over some old equipment to Kuat, euphemistically calling it destocking. Onana Quarter didn't favor these outdated battleships, but they were better than nothing. After all, they were still large battleships, each 2011 meters in length. Thus, they were included in the attack fleet and used as cannon fodder. This is why the first batch of warships to pass through the hyperspace stabilizer were the 20 Invincibles. Kuat did not want to risk cutting-edge warships like the Knight-class Star Destroyer to test the stabilizer's stability and actual combat functions. Naturally, Volgograd Kennedy, the commander, showing no mercy to these old warships, ordered a continued barrage. Simultaneously, 200 Ghost fighters took off, accompanied by 500 Vulture robot fighters, all targeting the vulnerable fleet of Invincible-class battlecruisers. The Duchy of Dawn needed to destock its Vulture robot fighters. Over the past 3,000 years, the strengths and weaknesses of the Invincible class have been thoroughly analyzed. These old warships possess formidable ship-to-ship attack capabilities, but are ineffective against fighter groups. Just as the fighter formation from the Principality of Liming launched their assault on the Invincible-class battlecruisers, an unexpected event occurred. In another sector of the galaxy, a sudden burst of white light illuminated the void. Emerging from hyperspace navigation were 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers and 5 Jaeger-class battlecruisers. Note 1. The naval organization and warship classification of the Galactic Republic are determined by a combination of factors such as length, volume, function, and power. However, this classification system can be confusing for readers. For instance, the Invincible class, which is over 2,000 meters in height, is categorized as a cruiser, while the Conqueror class, standing at 4,825 meters, is designated as a heavy cruiser. Although the Galactic Republic's system may be more scientific, it can be perplexing for readers. Therefore, for simplicity and clarity, length will be the primary criterion. Thus, the Invincible class is a battle cruiser, and the Conqueror class is a battleship. Isn't that much clearer? End of this chapter. Chapter 1626, The Beginning of the Killing. The fleet of the Galactic Republic appeared again, this time from another direction in the galaxy. 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers and 5 Jaeger-class battlecruisers emerged from hyperspace. In the command center of the Argonev-class interstellar base on the outskirts of the Anji planet, the hyperspace monitoring team was shocked by the readings. There are still abnormalities in the hyperspace fluctuation readings, one of the team members exclaimed. The fleet of the Galactic Republic did not arrive via conventional hyperspace jumps, another added. Their jump landing points span a lot. This is not a normal hyperspace jump situation. Volgograd Kennedy stood in the center of the command center, as stable as a mountain. He said loudly, "Everyone, hold your breath. The Galactic Republic can once again use this soon-to-be-abandoned hyperspace channel and jump directly to the Anji galaxy. This is an anomaly in itself. Don't you even have this mental preparation?" He turned to the busy astronomers and hyperspace experts. "I don't need you to find out their methods and principles now. I just need you to find out the rules." Okay, they responded. Fighter formations, continue to attack those Invincible-class battlecruisers, other battleships, regroup, and be wary of possible assaults by the Galactic Republic fleet from other directions. Kennedy continued to issue instructions. "Yes, sir," came the unified response. At this time, the newly arrived Republic warships had already launched an attack from another direction. The 10 Knight-class ships were fully engaged, bombarding the direction of planet Anji with continuous suppressive fire. The 5 Jaeger-class battlecruisers began deploying their front hangar platforms, launching fighter jets to reinforce the 20 Invincible-class battlecruisers on the other side. In fact, the war had progressed to the point where the Jaeger-class battlecruisers were playing the role of aircraft carriers. Their frontal bombardment capabilities, with only 8 XX-9 heavy turbolaser turrets, were insufficient for direct combat. They had previously bullied the Generosity-class communication frigates, but now even the escort fleet considered the Generosity-class ships to be outdated and expensive. Facing the unusual arrival method of the Galactic Republic fleet, Volgograd Kennedy was doubly cautious. He did not let his battleships act rashly, but kept a distance and fired at the opponent. Meanwhile, Darth Malthael, who had been standing on an inconspicuous asteroid, began to show a hint of cruelty in his ferocious smile. He raised his hand to grab the void and slowly clenched his palm. The asteroid under his feet collapsed and shattered, revealing a bright red fighter jet hidden inside, the Red Comet, Darth Malthael's exclusive ship. The Red Comet slowly flew towards him, the cockpit opening automatically. The engine started just as he approached, all under the control of Darth Malthael's force. With a flash, he appeared in the cockpit, the grin on his face growing more intense. He pressed a few buttons on the console and muttered to himself, "Do you think I won't kill? Darth Sidious?" The dagger-shaped Red Comet fighter started immediately, reaching its fastest speed in an instant and disappearing into the sky like lightning. At the same time, Darth Malthael activated the cloaking device, making the Red Comet vanish from optical and radar detection. Even the particle jet behind the engine emitted no radiation. On the bridge of one of the Knight-class Star Destroyers, the commander of the battle group was giving orders loudly. "Adjust the direction of the muzzle. Aim at planet Anji and fire." The command echoed through the control room. Several gunners, stationed at their turrets, mechanically pressed the launch buttons, unleashing the power of the XX-9 heavy-duty turbolaser cannons. The planet, rotating and revolving in its fixed orbit, was an easy target with the aid of the most advanced fire control system, MS. Even from hundreds of millions of kilometers away, the cannons could strike with pinpoint accuracy. Despite the relentless bombardment, Planet Anji's high-power planetary shield held firm. The combined firepower of 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers was insufficient to breach it. Accelerate the fighter formation. Eliminate the Separatist fighters attacking the Invincible formation immediately. Do not get entangled with them. Radar team, continue scanning the entire galaxy to ensure no large drone motherships appear. The battle group commander issued his orders with urgency. The battle data from the Yago-Dur galaxy had been transmitted back, revealing the formidable combat capabilities of the Consul-class aircraft carrier and its swarm drones. The Republic military had warned all frontline commanders to be wary of this new and troublesome enemy. Leading a battle group of 10 knights and 5 hunters, the commander was naturally concerned about the possibility of his fleet being ambushed by such an almost insurmountable force. "General, we've repeatedly scanned the defensive area outside the opponent's planet, but the electronic interference is too strong. We haven't gathered much sensor information. However, there are currently no signals indicating the presence of a large warship over 3,000 meters in length. Such a vessel would be difficult to conceal," a technician reported. The commander nodded and turned to his adjutant. "Continue the bombardment. Don't let these separatist scum rest. Once the follow-up fleet arrives and surrounds Planet Anji from all directions, it will be their end." "Yes, sir." "Report. There's movement on the anti-obscure radar," a radar technician suddenly exclaimed. The radar team leader immediately went to investigate. The battle group commander, overhearing the conversation, inquired, "Is it a ghost fighter? Is that the response we're seeing?" "It shouldn't be a ghost fighter. Our anti-stealth radar can detect stealth fighters within a certain range," the radar team leader replied, frowning. "But this signal, it's too weak, and the speed, no, something's not right." His voice grew louder with urgency. "It's flying towards us. The signal is getting stronger. The target is approaching us at high speed," another radar operator shouted. "Share the data immediately. All warship radars focus in this direction," the commander ordered. "I see it. It's a fighter plane. Red." Could it be a new type of separatist fighter? Fire! Shoot it down, the commander yelled. No, it's too fast. We can't aim. The fire control radar can't lock on. It's coming. It's coming. End of this chapter. By little, only to see that the soldiers who had come to help were also transforming into rotting corpses right before his eyes. Their flesh was decaying rapidly, and their eyes were filled with a lifeless, eerie glow. What's happening? The commander screamed, his voice filled with a mix of terror and disbelief. This can't be real. The adjutant, equally horrified, tried to maintain some semblance of control. Everyone, stay calm. We need to figure out what's causing this and stop it immediately. But the chaos was spreading too quickly. More and more crew members were succumbing to the mysterious affliction, their bodies deteriorating into grotesque, undead forms. The bridge was filled with the sounds of panicked screams, the stench of decay, and the unsettling sight of former comrades turning into monsters. Seal the bridge. We need to contain this, the adjutant ordered, but it was already too late. The infection was spreading through the ship's ventilation system, reaching every corner of the battleship. Meanwhile, outside the ship, the blood-red fighter continued its eerie dance around the Knight-class Star Destroyer. It moved with an almost supernatural grace, evading every shot fired at it with ease. The pilot inside seemed to be toying with the massive warship, knowing full well that the real threat was already inside. Back on the bridge, the commander and the remaining uninfected crew members were desperately trying to come up with a plan. We need to get to the escape pods, the commander said, his voice trembling. We can't stay here. This ship is lost. But what about the rest of the fleet? The adjutant asked. If this spreads, it could wipe out our entire force. We have no choice, the commander replied grimly. We need to warn them and get out of here before it's too late. As they made their way to the escape pods, they encountered more of the undead crew members. The once proud soldiers of the Knight-class Star Destroyer were now mindless, rotting husks, driven by some dark force. The commander and his team fought their way through, using whatever weapons they could find to fend off the relentless horde. Finally, they reached the escape pods. Go, go, go! The commander shouted, ushering his team inside. We need to warn the fleet. As the escape pods launched into space, the commander looked back at the once mighty battleship. It was now a floating tomb, filled with the undead remains of its crew. He could only hope that they would be able to stop this nightmare before it consumed them all. In the distance, the blood-red fighter watched the escape pods with a cold, calculating gaze. Its mission was far from over. The army of the dead had only just begun. He saw 4 rotting corpses standing behind him. They were still wearing the uniforms of the Galactic Republic Marine Corps, but their bodies had decayed. As they moved, pieces of putrid flesh fell from their bodies, making a sickening sound on the ground. Wah! The battle group commander let out another scream, his fear reaching its peak. However, these rotting corpses did not kill him. Instead, they grabbed him and pressed him into the captain's seat. On the bridge, almost everyone had turned into rotting, smelly corpses without warning. What made the situation even more terrifying was that these corpses were still moving. They were the walking dead. T-virus. The commander of the battle group thought, his mind grasping for an explanation. At the same time, a stream of warmth emerged from his crotch, soaking his pants. He didn't dare to move, as the 4 walking corpses stood around him, their rotten hands reaching out to grab him. The stench of decaying flesh assaulted his senses, and finally, after losing control of his bladder, he vomited. On the bridge, a few people had not turned into the walking dead. These were the team leaders of various departments and teams of the battleship. However, they were all controlled by the walking dead, their faces pale with terror. Some had fainted, others were incontinent, and many were vomiting. Suddenly, a voice echoed in their minds. If you want to survive, then control this ship and crash it. The voice was cold and deep, and even though it was just a short sentence, it made their brains roar, compelling them to follow the command. Only then did they understand why they had survived and what they needed to do. Push the joystick. The reading is set to 3. The spaceship operator was the first to speak, his voice trembling. He gave instructions to a former colleague who had turned into a corpse. The rotting corpses seemed to retain some memories of their lives, so they could follow simple instructions. Under the control of these walking corpses, the Knight-class Star Destroyer began to turn awkwardly, heading towards another Knight-class Star Destroyer. The other warships finally noticed something was wrong and began to send communications. The commander of the battle group, now pale and slumped in his seat, understood what he needed to do. He turned on the communication, but disabled the screen display. Our ship encountered a technical failure. The engine exploded, and the engineering team was completely wiped out. "We need docking maintenance," he said, his voice shaky. Chapter 1628, The Collapse of the Second Battle Group. The Knight-class Star Destroyer, the flagship of the battle group, flew towards another battleship with its No. 3 engine ablaze. During the communication, the battle group commander mentioned a malfunction on his ship and then abruptly cut off the communication, leaving everyone in silence as the ship continued its ominous approach. "General? General, please respond. General." Calls persisted over the communication channel. "General, where is the fighter that attacked your ship just now? Anti-stealth radar is fully operational and searching." The captains of the other warships, sensing something was amiss, urgently continued their inquiries. But the battle group commander remained silent, slumped in his seat with a pale face. 4 rotting corpses that had been holding him down grabbed him again. Trembling, he picked up the communicator, cleared his throat with a dry cough, and said, "That fighter plane escaped. I don't know where it went." The captain of one of the battleships was silent for a moment before saying, "General, did something happen to your ship? Can you turn on the video screen?" No. The communicator is out of order." The commander, drenched in cold sweat, stammered, "General, please turn around immediately and do not continue to approach our ship. Otherwise, we will open fire." The captain of the Knight-class Star Destroyer that was being approached warned over the communication. The commander's chest heaved violently. Suddenly, he turned on the video screen of the communicator and shouted hysterically, "Shoot at us! Quickly! Shoot at me! Everyone has become dead! Everyone!" A rotting corpse next to him immediately grabbed him with one claw and opened its decayed mouth to bite down. But the commander had already pulled out the blaster pistol from his waist, pointed it directly at his chin, and pulled the trigger. Puff! Countless bloody brains splattered in all directions. At that moment, the damaged Knight-class Star Destroyer was rapidly approaching the other warships like a wild horse. Simultaneously, the Red Comet began to move, flying directly towards another Knight-class Star Destroyer. "Sir, the anti-stealth radar is responding. It's that fighter jet from before." "Fire! Shoot! All warships, fire and shoot! Stop it!" But the Red Comet used the Star Destroyer, now a death ship, as cover, maneuvering up and down, evading interception. The Jaeger-class battlecruiser launched another wave of fighter jets to intercept, but they were all easily outmaneuvered by Darth Malthael. The 6 laser cannons on both sides fired rapidly, and within minutes, more than a dozen fighter jets were shot down. Even the latest V-wing fighters were no match, exploding into balls of fire instantly. "No, we can't stop it! Spread out! Spread out!" The battleships were still unable to block the Red Comet's approach. On the fire control radar screen, the signal representing the Red Comet appeared and disappeared here and there like a ghost. Locking onto it was impossible, and even keeping it within the detection range of the fire control radar was a challenge. The second Knight-class Star Destroyer was also approached by the Red Comet. This time, Darth Malthael did not hide. He deactivated the optical stealth system and hovered the fighter jet in front of the bridge's porthole, making his presence visible to everyone inside. To those inside the bridge, the blood-red dagger-shaped fighter was the harbinger of death. Under the influence of the Death Force, all members of this Knight-class Star Destroyer were paralyzed with fear, knowing their end was near. The destroyer soon became a vessel of walking corpses, with only the team leaders of various departments still alive. Under the coercion of the undead, these leaders were forced to steer the warship towards other vessels. The Huguang is also occupied. No! How did he do it? The Huguang's shield is still up. Don't let it come any closer. Shoot! Shoot! That fighter plane cannot be locked. Then shoot the Huguang. At this moment, the third batch of 20 Jaeger-class battlecruisers and 5 Knight-class Star Destroyers arrived in the outer space of Anji's planet with a burst of white flashes. However, what they encountered was a chaotic, doomsday-like scene. The first batch of 20 Invincible-class battlecruisers were being relentlessly attacked by the fighter formations of the Duchy of Dawn. The outdated design of the Invincible class was no match for the main fighter jets of the current era, the Ghost Fighters. Perhaps 3,000 years ago, the Invincible-class battlecruiser could have held its own despite its air defense shortcomings, but now it was utterly outclassed. The close-in defense guns on the Invincible-class ships fired desperately, but to no avail, managing to shoot down only more than 70 Vulture robot fighters. The Ghost Fighters, however, remained untouched. If it weren't for the fighter formation reinforcements sent by the second batch of Hunters, the situation would have already collapsed. The second batch of 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers and 5 Hunter-class battlecruisers was even more chaotic. They were scattered, with no formation at all. Several of the Knight-class Star Destroyers behaved very strangely, causing other warships to avoid them as if playing hide-and-seek. The communication channels were filled with screams, shouts, and roars, spreading an atmosphere of despair. What happened? Answer immediately! Answer immediately! The commander of the third batch of battle groups demanded loudly. Don't come here! Don't come here! Ah! Only screams responded to him. This is the first battle group, requesting fighter support. Our fighter formation urgently needs to land and resupply. Their mothership has completely lost contact. The voice of the first battle group commander came through the communication. What happened to the second battle group? The third battle group commander asked. I don't know, but the second battle group is done for. Don't go there. Don't let them come, the first battle group commander replied. Call for reinforcements from the rear immediately. Send reinforcements now, otherwise we won't even be able to hold our ground here, the third combat group commander shouted. Deploy the fighter formation, at least half of the carrier-based aircraft. Make room for the fighters that lost their motherships to land. Yes, sir. General, the Separatist defense fleet is advancing towards us, the adjutant shouted. Chapter 1629. Master, Unmanned Galaxy number T6652U7X8849L, Galactic Republic, Quarter Power Dock General Command Base, Fleet Flagship Tag Bridge. The Tag is a Commander-class dreadnought ship. Although this Commander class is an older battleship, there is a significant performance gap compared to the newer Commander 2 class now increasingly used by the Republic Navy. However, this particular Commander-class ship is different. To serve as the flagship, it has undergone extensive refitting, enhancing its communication system, combat command system, and providing very complete living and safety facilities. It can be said that this Tag battleship is essentially a mobile villa manor. For Cassio Tag, commanding such a massive fleet of more than 400 warships was an immense honor. He named this flagship after his family, believing that his entire family would be honored by this. A fleet of 400 capital ships. Even in the history of the Galactic Republic, only a handful of people have commanded a fleet of this size. The reason they are all capital ships is due to the hyperspace stabilizer. Only capital ships have a hyperspace engine large enough to directly reach the model star area in one jump. News from the front line. The first battle group has encountered a crisis, and the second battle group has completely collapsed. The reason is unknown. The signalman ran over quickly and reported to Cassio Tag, who was standing in the middle of the bridge. The third battle group commander has sent an urgent request for help, asking for reinforcements to be dispatched immediately. Otherwise, we may not be able to maintain our position. The situation is that bad? Cassio Tag was surprised. Separatists may have been prepared. There could be an ambush. His adjutant, veteran Laszlo Dolittle, suggested. Could it be that our plan has leaked? Impossible. The plan to attack the model star area is a top secret of the Republic. The number of people who know this plan across the entire galaxy does not exceed double digits, Cassio Tag insisted. But that's the reality, Laszlo Dolittle countered. We can't wait any longer. In addition to the fourth battle group that is already on the way, we should adjust our plan and increase the strength of the fifth battle group, and we should go personally. Go in person? Cassiope's face changed. We don't even know what happened in the Anji galaxy now. Going rashly like this is tantamount to suicide. It's even worse if we wait here. We don't know the specific situation at all, and the news spreads very slowly. If we can't respond in time and wait until the advanced team is wiped out, then our offensive can only be terminated early. Laszlo advised. Cassiope pondered, still hesitating. There was no doubt that their advance fleet had encountered significant trouble on the planet Anji, and it was even in danger of being destroyed. However, 3 battle groups had already been sent over, including 20 Invincible-class battlecruisers, 15 Knight-class Star Destroyers, and 25 Jaeger-class battlecruisers. Such a number of capital ships, if paired with the assistance of some small and medium-sized warships, is enough for the Galactic Republic to launch a battle in one direction. But such a force was facing catastrophe in a very short period of time. What on earth did they run into? But no matter what it was, this was definitely not something Cassiope wanted to face. He was still young and had a lot to accomplish, so he could not risk his life in the face of unknown dangers at this time. General, if we can't go to the model star area immediately, those warships sent before will be completely in vain. Laszlo Dolittle continued to advise the man who was nearly 30 years younger than him, but held a military rank 4 levels higher, as a Rear Admiral of the Republic. Go! If there is anything, I will protect you. A cold voice came from the door. Laszlo Dolittle looked back. Ah, here are the 2 masters. Is it an insult to call us master? Laszlo Dolittle hurriedly bowed and admitted his mistake, his voice trembling. No, I dare not. It was my mistake. Sorry. Standing at the door of the command center were 2 advisors sent directly by Speaker Palpatine. These so-called consultants were actually masters of the dark side, providing assistance with the Force. Like the Jedi Knights, they possessed transcendent power, but unlike the Jedi, they would kill without hesitation if crossed. Both were dressed in black robes with hoods covering their faces, but it was still possible to discern that one was tall and strong, while the other was short and fat. As they walked in, about 20 people followed. These individuals wore black samurai uniforms and black masks, devoid of any expression. The masks featured flat-shaped tactical eyepieces with red lights flashing at the eye positions. They lined up on both sides and saluted the 2 in the middle in a uniform manner. Let's start making arrangements. It's time for us to act, the short and fat man said, stepping forward and removing his hood to reveal his true face. He was dark-skinned, short, and fat, with a bald head. His eyes were completely black, giving him a hideous and eerie appearance. Mr. Sakuis, Cassiope greeted, showing respect to the master of the dark side. He then nodded to the tall man behind Kuis and said, Mr. Jeng Droga. Jeng Droga remained silent, his demeanor cold. He did not remove his hood and stood still, like a stone statue. The reason why the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd battle groups were in danger is probably because they encountered the Force Masters under the Dead Angel, Sakuis explained. Therefore, this matter is naturally our speaker's hand responsibility. His completely black eyes stared at Cassiope, making him uneasy. The old soldier is right. You should start now under our protection. Cassiope nodded stiffly and began to adjust the force composition of the 5th battle group. He continued to order adjustments to the fleet deployment. Despite the pressure, his talent and military genius shone through. Under his arrangement and organization, the entire formation began to adjust in an orderly manner without any confusion. With the flagship tag as the core, 40 Jaeger-class battlecruisers and 5 Governor-class battleships were organized into the 5th battle group. The massive formation began to move the enormous hyperspace stabilizer. Easter Egg Chapter Attachment 1. Sakuis, one of the elders of the Hand of the Emperor under Darth Sidious. Chapter 1630. Haunted Fleet. By the time the 4th battle group of the Galactic Republic Expeditionary Force, consisting of 20 Jaeger-class battlecruisers and 5 Cheer-class assault landing ships, arrived at the outer space battlefield of planet Anji, the first 3 battle groups were already in a precarious situation. Of the 20 Invincible-class battlecruisers in the first battle group, only 11 remained, desperately maneuvering towards the third battle group. Nearby, fighter formations from both sides were engaged in fierce, bloody combat. The second battle group presented an especially bizarre sight. Initially comprising 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers and 5 Hunter-class battlecruisers, only 6 Knight-class and 4 Hunter-class ships were left. A massive gap had been blown into their formation, leaving them completely paralyzed. Strangely, the surviving ships of the second battle group were stationary, showing no intention of moving. Meanwhile, the third battle group was locked in a fierce battle with the Separatist fleet and was clearly at a disadvantage. The Separatists had deployed 8 Behemoth-class battlecruisers, bombarding them indiscriminately. The Yamato cannons fired continuously, their blasts exploding against the deflector shields of the Jaeger-class and Knight-class ships, leaving the wreckage of 3 Jaeger-class battlecruisers in their wake. In such artillery battles, the third battle group was utterly defeated. The third battle group, with its 20 Jaeger-class battlecruisers and 5 Knight-class Star Destroyers, should have had an absolute advantage. However, the Separatists had an unknown number of disaster-class battlecruisers hidden near planet Anji, in the shadow of a satellite, continuing their long-range assault. The powerful firepower forced the Republic fleet to retreat steadily. Oddly, despite the first and third battle groups being in dire straits, and the second battle group clearly in a miserable state, neither the first nor the third battle group made any move to assist the second. Instead, they fought and retreated, moving away from the second battle group as if it were a terrifying cosmic monster. The second battle group remained isolated, with no fighter jets taking off or returning, and no enemy ships in sight. Even the friendly forces were distancing themselves. It was unclear who or what had sunk the lost warships. "This is the fourth battle group. On-site commander, report the situation immediately," the commander of the fourth battle group demanded over the communication channel. "This is the first battle group. Please assemble." "This is the second battle group. Please assemble." "The third battle." "No. Don't go. Leave them alone." A series of voices came through the communication, some eager, some gloomy, and some frightened. "What the hell happened?" The commander of the fourth battle group frowned, looking at the 2 faces distorted by fear on the screen in front of him. "Second battle group, is your video call system malfunctioning?" "This is the second battle group, requesting reinforcements," the gloomy voice from the second battle group repeated. "The second battle group has been completely wiped out. The reason is unknown." The voice of the third battle group commander trembled. "Total destruction? But they are still. Over there, they are all people who should have died." The voice of the first battle group commander was almost in tears. "But, stop talking. The battle is urgent. Stay away from the second battle group. Let's regroup. The Separatist offensive is fierce." The commander of the third battle group shouted hysterically. "Launch fighter jets to support. We can't." The communication cut off abruptly, leaving the fourth battle group commander staring at the screen in stunned silence. The haunted fleet of the second battle group loomed ominously in the distance, a chilling reminder of the unknown horrors lurking in the depths of space. "Hold on anymore." "Understood. The fighter jet formation will take off immediately." The Cheerer, R-class assault landing ship formation, will retreat from the battlefield. All ships, enter combat positions. The commander of the fourth battle group finally made up his mind and ordered loudly. "The new combat communication frequency has been sent to you separately through encrypted communication. Let's leave this channel," the commander of the third battle group said. "This is the second battle group. Save us." "Here is the second beep. Dukun, save us. Beep." The voice was low, hoarse, and lifeless. Drops of black blood flowed down into the microphone, causing bursts of noise. The mouth that was speaking had lips already turned purple, and a big hole was blown open on the chin, bloody and grotesque. Black, stinking blood continued to flow down the chin hole. A small piece of the upper face had been blasted off, and beside the wound, the cortical tissue of the brain and gray-white brain pulp were still visible. "Save us." The commander of the second battle group had long been a rotting corpse. He had shot himself directly from the chin with a blaster. But death was not his end. He was still sitting on the main seat of the bridge, staggering, holding a communicator, and constantly sending distress messages. The main lighting in the bridge had been extinguished, and the red light of the backup power supply illuminated the not-so-large bridge space, making this already terrifying place even more like a hell of death. Dead. All dead. But they were still moving, staggering in their original positions, as if they couldn't even stand firmly. Everyone was highly corrupted, as if dead for days. Who would have known that just a few hours ago, they were still alive and kicking? This battleship had become a steel coffin. No, all the battleships of the second battle group were already like this. The battle was still going on, and Volgograd Kanedi seized the opportunity of the complete annihilation of the second battle group, dispatching his own fleet to launch an assault on the currently strongest third battle group of the Republic. The Behemoth-class battlecruiser rushed forward, and the Catastrophe-class battlecruiser hid in the dark, attacking remotely with a particle light spear. Under the powerful electronic interference, it was difficult for the radar of the Republic fleet to find the location of these disaster-class battlecruisers, and naturally, there was no way to counterattack. The Duchy of Dawn's fleet continued to attack, forcing the first and third combat groups of the Republic to retreat continuously, making it impossible for them to expand their formation. Even if the fourth battle group arrived, it would not be able to turn the tide of the battle. It's clear from the configuration of the Galactic Republic's first four battle groups that their plans are pretty obvious. First, the old Invincible-class battlecruiser was used as the guide. The first battle group came over for fire reconnaissance and attracted the attention of the defenders. The second battle group had a total of 10 Knight-class star destroyers. Obviously, after the second batch arrived, they used long-range bombardment to further contain the defenders of the Principality of Dawn. Next, the third battle group of 20 Hunter-class ships and 5 Knight-class ships would completely gain a foothold. Whether it was a fighter formation or a fleet bombardment battle, it would form a very powerful combat force, making it impossible for the defenders of the Duchy of Dawn to attack. Then, the 20 Jaeger-class battlecruisers of the 4th Battle Group escorted 5 Cheer-class assault landing ships. It was obvious that they wanted to take this opportunity to launch a landing. It's so beautiful. Volgograd Kanedi's mocking smile emerged from his beard. Who planned this? Seriously, I am the main player, and I don't care about how the opponent responds at all, only about how to achieve my own tactics. Obvious student style. The so-called student style implies that you can't outright say his tactics are wrong. On the contrary, his tactical layout and troop ratio are superior to others. Judging from the formation of the fighter jets taking off, it is evident that the opposing commander has meticulously calculated the ratio of carrier-based aircraft and has tailored configurations for different combat stages. However, the battlefield is unpredictable, and no one is obliged to follow your rhythm. What Volgograd Kanedi did was to fight relentlessly, without giving the Republic fleet any chance to stabilize its position. He aimed to entangle them in combat from the moment they emerged from hyperspace, ensuring they couldn't escape. He did have concerns, though, because the hyperspace jump used by the Galactic Republic this time was somewhat unusual. Normally, while the landing point of a hyperspace jump can be adjusted, it generally follows the direction of the hyperspace channel. The essence of the hyperspace waterway is to provide safe passages in the vast hyperspace, avoiding all mass projections. Therefore, reaching the destination through such a channel means you can't just turn around and come out from another direction. Hyperspace has never been so calm. But this time, after the warships of the Galactic Republic exited hyperspace, their landing range was extensive, completely escaping the scope of the hyperspace channel. It was as if the Galactic Republic could adjust the angle of the hyperspace channel. How could this be possible? The technology database of the Principality of Dawn contains many superluminal navigation technologies, ranging from wormholes to stargates. However, none of the technologies involving the hyperspace channel can adjust its angle. This could only mean that the Galactic Republic has been immersed in hyperspace technology for tens of thousands of years, and their understanding of hyperspace surpasses that of the Principality of Dawn's database. If they were allowed to continue increasing their troops from different directions, then with the absolute superiority of the Galactic Republic, they would soon form a siege around the planet Anji. This would force the defenders to divide their forces, stretching their strength even thinner. This clearly showed that the Galactic Republic had come prepared and was ready to complete its objective in one decisive battle. Volgograd Kennedy could not allow this to happen. He commanded the fleet to continue attacking, even after the arrival of the 4th Battle Group of the Republic, constantly pressing their formation. Only by doing this could he prevent their follow-up reinforcements from expanding further. Kennedy glanced in the direction of the 2nd Battle Group. That man, the one honored as the Grand Duke of Liming, had just destroyed the entire Galactic Republic's most advanced Star Destroyer battle group. The 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers had never suffered such a heavy loss since their inception, but in front of the Grand Duke Dawn and the Sith Lord, those Star Destroyers were like toys. Was this his power? Volgograd Kennedy made no secret of his dislike for Tang Xiao. Shortly after waking up, Tang Xiao had assigned him to be a pirate when he had wanted to take up a production position. He had to bear the aggressive war behavior of the domineering Ailu people at that time. From then on, he knew that he and Tang Xiao were not aligned. However, he had to admit that the leader of the 4th civilization could only be Tang Xiao. If it were anyone else, the entire 4th civilization's wealth might have been wiped out in less than half a year. This had nothing to do with ability, but because, from the day the 4th civilization set foot on Dawn Planet, the path Tang Xiao has chosen is one of war. In Volgograd Kennedy's view, this path leads to inevitable destruction. Before that fateful end, his goal was to transform the model sector into a haven where people could live peacefully, even amidst the chaos of war. Even if only a part of it could be saved, that would be enough for him. However, when the fleet of the Galactic Republic broke through what seemed like an impenetrable barrier and arrived in the model sector, he realized he had underestimated the Republic, the war, and Tang Xiao himself. From that moment on, the future of the model sector was no longer in its own hands. What could he do now? Volgograd Kennedy sighed deeply, feeling a sense of helplessness. On the battlefield, the fleet of the Galactic Republic was in retreat. After suffering heavy losses, the remaining 3 battle groups, aside from the decimated 2nd battle group, finally managed to regroup. With over 50 capital ships, they now had the strength to continue fighting. The capital ships supported each other, and the fighter formations bravely intercepted enemy aircraft, preventing a complete collapse of their defenses. Suddenly, the white light of hyperspace flickered violently, signaling the arrival of the 5th battle group on the battlefield. At the core of this group was the flagship of the Expeditionary Force, the Commander-class Dreadnought Tag. The addition of 40 Hunter-class battlecruisers and 5 Governor-class battleships immediately shifted the balance of power. What the hell happened? Cassio Tag roared as he saw the retreating Republic fleet. Dead Angel. Sakuz turned his head towards the direction of the 2nd battle group. Although it was over 100,000 kilometers away and out of sight, he could sense the outcome through the Force. It was the Dead Angel who intervened, he said grimly. If we can kill him, the war in the western region will be over. We are not his opponents. Do not act rashly, John Daroga, who had been hiding under his hood, cautioned slowly. Are we just here to watch? Sakuz retorted, clearly displeased. Lord Sidious has already made arrangements. A cruel smile appeared on John Droga's face, barely visible under his hood. Chapter 1631, Low-Temperature Human. Are you saying the Dead Angel is here? Major General Cassio Tag asked, his face dark with concern as he studied the battlefield situation map. Is our dire situation due to the power of the Dead Angel? The commander of the 1st battle group nodded. Yes, if what you say is true, and it is indeed the Dead Angel, then everything makes sense. The Dead Angel destroyed the 2nd battle group in less than an hour. That's 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers. Cassio Tag exclaimed through gritted teeth. Even if they offered no resistance and allowed themselves to be bombarded, they shouldn't have been destroyed so easily. The Galactic Republic's fleet of Knight-class star destroyers was limited. Despite full support from the Kuat Power shipyard, they had only managed to bring 40 Knight-class ships to this battle. Other war zones were also eager to get their hands on these powerful ships. The Jaeger-class battlecruiser alone could no longer compete with the increasingly advanced Behemoth-class and Disaster-class warships of the Separatists. The Kuat Power dockyard was already lagging in warship upgrades, prompting the Galactic Republic to urge fleet systems to expedite the design of the Defender-class heavy cruiser. And now, the Dead Angel had destroyed 10 Knight-class star destroyers, a quarter of their fleet, without a word. Cassiotag's distress was palpable. "We don't know exactly what happened, but it was bizarre and terrifying," the third commander said, still sweating from the memory. When I arrived at the battlefield, the second battle group was already in chaos. Communications were filled with frantic mentions of red fighters, but we couldn't detect anything. Their side was in disarray, and no one responded to our data-sharing requests. Then, he shook his head, the memory still haunting him. Even though we were tens of thousands of kilometers away, the scene was terrifying. The second battle group was in complete chaos, as if they had encountered something horrific. They were avoiding one or several warships, and the situation quickly devolved into a chaotic chase. Communications were filled with dying screams and angry cries. They tried to resist, but it was futile. Death was spreading. Occasionally, when we managed to connect, the holographic projection showed decayed corpses. Yes, these corpses were moving, grabbing people, biting people, even shooting people. They were once alive. How did they rot in minutes? How could they run after dying? The third commander clutched his forehead, the horror of the scene overwhelming him. If not for his strong composure as a commander, he might have collapsed. Then, nothing. The screams gradually faded, and the warships of the second battle group stopped one by one. Then they started sending us messages, pleading for rescue, but they were obviously dead. Cassiotag wanted to dismiss their words as science fiction, but the ashen faces of the first and third commanders made his heart race. It was true, the second battle group had been turned into corpses without warning, with their shields and armor still intact. It's not surprising, the Dead Angel's ability is to control death. Turning everyone inside a battleship into walking dead is not difficult for him, John Daroga said coldly. His voice was rough and manic, like a wild animal's roar, yet his tone was calm, a stark contrast. "How can we possibly fight like this? If he comes over, we're all dead." Cassiotag was furious. He felt deceived, knowing this place was a death trap, yet he had been tricked into coming here. "Why do you think the Dead Angels haven't unified the galaxy yet?" Jan Droga's voice was cold and harsh. "It's because we exist." "Do you have a way to kill him?" Cassiotag's eyes lit up with hope. "If the Dead Angel were that easy to kill, we'd be sipping tea on the Dawn Star by now," Jan Droga retorted sharply. "You." Cassiotag was so stunned he nearly fainted. Jan Droga snorted and said, "Do your job well, talented student. Leave the matter of the Force to us." A large transport ship flew next to a Knight-class star destroyer in the second battle group and docked at the loading and unloading platform. Once the docking was complete, the transport ship's hatch opened, and rows of B-1 battle droids marched in with precise steps. These B-1 battle droids were unarmed, unlike their usual configuration with E-5 blaster rifles. They spread out across the battleship, taking over its operations. "Hey, move aside. This is the helmsman's position," a B-1 battle droid said to the rotting corpse still seated at the main console. The corpse immediately stood up and stepped aside, allowing the B-1 droid to take its place. "You, turn on the repeater," the B-1 droid instructed another robot nearby. "Roger, Roger," the robot responded, then turned to the operator's corpse and said, "Turn on the repeater." The corpse complied clumsily, but completed the action. "This time we can order humans, which have never appeared in the database," a B-1 droid remarked. "They are not humans, they have a lower body temperature. They should be called cryogenic humans," another B-1 droid corrected. "The air here contains more hydrogen sulfide and methane, indicating that these cryogenic humans require these gases to live. There is no race of cryogenic humans in my database. Of course not, given the small capacity of your processor. Oh, and neither does mine. "Hey you, cryogenic human, flip that switch," a B-1 droid commanded. A corpse with its head turned 180 degrees complied, completing the operation. "I love commanding humans. It makes my processor run 5% faster." "It's a cryogenic human." "Roger, Roger." Darth Malthael stood outside the cabin of the Red Comet fighter, staring coldly in the direction of the Republic fleet. He refrained from attacking directly because the Force indicated that several Masters of the Force were among the enemy. Facing the overwhelming firepower of the Republic fleet, it would be dangerous to be entangled by the opponent's Force-sensitive Masters. But this also made him even more excited. Note, some Star Wars enthusiasts may have noticed that I have introduced many warships, equipment, and characters ahead of their canonical timeline. This is to avoid the monotony of seeing more and more battleships on the Fourth Civilization's side. The Galactic Empire's era is rich with black technologies, enough to create a dynamic back and forth with the Fourth Civilization. Chapter 1632, Counter-Assault. Darth Malthael gazed intently in that direction, his eyes filled with cruelty. He activated the communication link and spoke slowly. "Do you see that, Commander? It's their general flagship." "Are we planning a surprise attack? The opponent's forces are formidable. This won't be easy," Volgograd Kennedy responded over the communication. "Cooperate well," Darth Malthael said darkly. "I want to see what tricks they have up their sleeves." Understood. During his force induction, Darth Malthael sensed something peculiar from the Republic's forces. Deciding to take the initiative, he deployed a large number of B-1 combat droids to the battleships of the Second Battle Group, which were already filled with death. These droids were programmed to control the battleships. Darth Malthael had used a basic resurrection technique to turn the soldiers on the Republic warships into the lowest-level walking dead. He didn't even bother with the essence transfer technique to maintain their intelligence. It wasn't necessary. All he needed was to destroy these warships. Now, with the warships controlled by the Walking Dead, it was the best possible outcome. The B-1 battle droids would make these warships operational, at least as cannon fodder. Whether these cannon fodder were the most advanced star destroyers of the Galactic Republic didn't matter to him. He had no interest in taking one back for research. The Fourth Civilization's technology library was already filled with more advanced warships. Even within the current Fourth Civilization, some battleship technologies were still beyond reach, only to be admired from afar. The Walking Dead, with only their most basic instincts remaining, were essentially used for menial tasks under the command of the B-1 combat droids. In this battle, facing the overwhelmingly superior army of the Galactic Republic, even the B-1 combat droids had to be used judiciously. The 6 Knight-class Star Destroyers and 4 Hunter-class battlecruisers, under the control of the Walking Dead and B-1 battle droids, began to turn awkwardly and slowly. Simultaneously, under the command of Volgograd Kennedy, 10 Behemoth-class battlecruisers, 10 Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers, and 5 Dunov-class battlecruisers advanced, forming an attacking formation. The Catastrophe-class battlecruisers, hidden in the shadow of the satellites, remained concealed. They continuously bombarded the Galactic Republic fleet with particle light spears. This had been the status quo since the advent of the Disaster class. The Republic fleet was constantly bombarded by particle light spears. Although the hit rate of these spears decreased with distance, the constant bombardment and the inability to stay in one place for too long made the Republic fleet feel like they had a thorn in their side. After the 5th battle group of the Galactic Republic arrived, their total number of battleships had increased to nearly 100. Despite this, the fleet of the Principality of Dawn launched an active attack with only 1/3 of its forces. The Disaster-class battlecruisers fired a salvo at the Republic fleet, and simultaneously, the Duchy of Dawn's assault fleet began to advance. The Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers led the charge at full speed, rushing headlong into the Republic battleship's firepower. These heavily armored warships simply ignored general firepower attacks, including those from the XX-9 heavy turbolaser cannons used by the Galactic Republic military. Unless a single ship like the Knight-class Star Destroyer, equipped with 60 XX-9 cannons, concentrated its firepower, it posed no threat to the Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers. Even then, it wouldn't be enough to scratch the Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers. Although the force is only one-third, the assault launched by these advanced warships still poses a significant threat to the Galactic Republic fleet. Moreover, there is the Dead Fleet, the second battle group. This fleet, filled with corpses, began to accelerate continuously until they were all airborne. Under the command of the B-1 battle robot, the gunners, who were essentially walking dead, began to control the main guns and attack. Under their cover, Darth Malthael piloted the Red Comet across the battlefield like a ghost. He activated the cloaking device, causing the entire fighter jet to disappear instantly. Neither radar nor the naked eye could detect it. As he approached the airspace where the Republic fleet was located, the hangar platforms of dozens of Jaeger-class battlecruisers had already been deployed, releasing countless fighter jets. The number exceeded 3,000. These fighter jets, armed with powerful proton torpedoes or concussion missiles, flew towards the battleship of the Principality of Dawn. The battle was about to commence in an instant. However, while the formation of the Galactic Republic was firing and attacking, it was also moving away from the second battle group. Clearly, after receiving the previous battle report, they dared not approach that eerie fleet, even with superior forces. Darth Malthael also drove the Red Comet to its highest speed, approaching the Republic fleet almost instantaneously. He spread the Death Force around him, turning a large area nearby into a domain of death. A V-19 Riptide had just entered the area, and within seconds, the pilot was reduced to a rotting corpse. The fighter immediately lost control and was blown to pieces by an approaching Vulture droid fighter. However, just as Darth Malthael was about to charge towards the flagship of the Republic fleet, he suddenly sensed something and turned his head to look aside. He saw dozens of pitch-black fighter jets flying towards him at high speed, all of them ETA-2 fighter jets. This type of fighter jet, considered the most advanced in the Galactic Republic, was not something ordinary pilots could handle due to its high speed and flexibility. Even with the assistance of navigation robots, ordinary pilots could not fully utilize the fighter jet's performance. This could only mean one thing: all those piloting these fighter jets were force-sensitive. These fighter jets, specially developed for the Jedi Knights, had become the murder weapons of those who surrendered to the dark side after the destruction of the Jedi Knights. Darth Malthael looked up and saw a boundless darkness shrouded behind those dozens of fighter jets, like a black hole devouring everything. When his Death Force came into contact with this terrifying darkness, the two forces collided violently and then completely dissolved each other. Darth Malthael looked over there, a cold smile forming at the corner of his mouth. Darth Sidious. Chapter 1633, Face-to-Face Confrontation. The fighter plane flew at an extremely fast speed, covering thousands of kilometers in an instant. During the high-speed flight and transformation, a blood-red shadow and dozens of black shadows intersected like lightning. Although the exchange of lasers and missiles was brief, each shot was extremely deadly. Both sides were powerful, force-sensitive individuals. Under the foresight of the Force, every movement, every turn, and every shot seemed random, but was, in fact, filled with incomparable danger. Darth Malthael frowned slightly, feeling a growing sense of dissonance. In every moment of collision, he could sense the incredibly powerful dark force of Darth Sidious. The power that devours everything like a black hole seemed to be right in front of him. However, what made Darth Malthael uneasy was that Darth Sidious seemed to be far away on the other side of the galaxy. In the confrontation between the fighters, Darth Malthael did not simply turn people into walking dead as he had before. The range of his Death Force was insignificant on the scale of the universe. Therefore, in space combat, using the Death Force to directly turn the people inside the opponent's battleship into walking dead was not always effective. If the other side was prepared, they could resist. So, another way was to directly destroy those battleships with his own powerful force. For this, Darth Malthael still needed further practice. He understood that besides Count Dooku, who was almost dead, the major powerhouses in this galaxy included Darth Sidious himself, the unborn Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and even Darth Krayt, whom he had sent people to Tatooine to search for but couldn't find. These individuals could potentially destroy a fleet in the future, but they were far from reaching their peak. They were all still growing. Presently, if a Star Destroyer were placed in front of these future superpowers, none of them would have any other option but to stare at it. The practice of the Force could not be rushed. Moreover, Darth Malthael had already locked down several ancient Sith relics. If he could obtain more inheritances, his growth rate could naturally compare with those of the amazingly talented Chosen Ones. There are talents from generation to generation, and war is always a hotbed of genius. Compared to the peaceful era of thousands of years before, from the beginning of the Clone Wars to the demise of the Galactic Republic and the establishment of the Galactic Empire, and finally until the collapse of the Galactic Empire, countless influential figures had appeared in the history of more than 50 years. As the beginning of this era, during the Clone Wars, they had just embarked on the road to becoming strong. The fighter jets of both sides continued to fight fiercely in this airspace, and their respective fleets kept their distance from this battle group. Here, it was no longer a battlefield that ordinary people could set foot on. Whether it was the blood-red red comet of Darth Malthael or the dozens of black ETA-2 fighter jets on the opposite side, they all pushed their engines to the maximum. When performing some maneuvers, the fighter jet's instantaneous acceleration could even exceed 4,000 Gs. However, Darth Malthael was still able to handle dozens of opponents with ease. In the constant entanglement and fighting, he managed to shoot down 2 of the opponent's fighter jets, but the strange feeling lingering in his heart never disappeared. Under the black hole-like force of Darth Sidious, the opposing fighters fought against his death force, constantly entangling. "Darth Sidious," he muttered to himself, his expression already a bit hideous. Soon, the energy of the red comet began to deplete, and the fighters of both sides broke away from the battle and returned to their respective motherships. Darth Malthael piloted his fighter back to a Jaeger-class battlecruiser, where several B-1 battle droids awaited his arrival. Robots brought the walking dead and began clumsily replacing the Capac, Itors, and replenishing fuel for the fighter. "Your Excellency, how is the battle on your side?" Volgograd Kennedy sent a message. "Keep attacking. Don't stop." Darth Malthael's face was terrifying, until the opponent's next batch of reinforcements arrive. "Attack me!" "Yes! Do you want to entangle me? Ha ha ha!" Darth Malthael looked in the direction of the Republic fleet, feeling the force of the dark side as vast as a black hole. He knew that it was absolutely impossible for Darth Sidious to appear at this time, but why his force appeared here is still unknown. However, he understood the tactics of the Masters from the dark side sent by the Galactic Republic, that is, to stop him on the space battlefield. Don't give him the chance to use his full strength. In fact, this is indeed the case. The powerful force-sensitive individuals almost all need to rely on fighter jets as a platform to perform on the space battlefield. With the help of his force prediction, it is almost impossible for a fighter piloted by a powerful force-sensitive person to be hit by the anti-aircraft fire of the opponent's warship. But the problem is that the fighter itself is still fragile. And once there are no fighter jets, although the cosmic vacuum cannot pose a threat to those who are sensitive to the Force, like Darth Malthael, it is impossible for them to reach an acceleration of several thousand Gs with their own strength. So the firepower of those warships will hit him accurately. Don't underestimate those advanced fire control radars. It is very easy to lock onto a person and fire accurately. There is nowhere to draw strength in the vacuum of the universe. And even if the attack is predicted, it cannot be avoided. As a result, at this time, it became necessary to rely on one's own strength to resist the firepower of a battleship. This is basically tantamount to courting death. For those who are relatively weak and sensitive to the Force, their strength is different. The prediction of the Force may not be accurate, and the reaction may not be fast enough. But for those who are powerful and sensitive to the Force, their upper limit is the upper limit of fighter jet performance. Had it been a fight on the ground, Darth Malthael might have easily defeated him. But if it is in space, the performance of the fighters of the two sides will greatly narrow the gap between them. So there is no doubt that the Galactic Republic intends to use this method to entangle him and prevent him from playing. Then on another battlefield, rely on their own powerful fleet to decide the outcome. Judging from Darth Sidious's dark side force appearing in front of him, this is his plan. Although Darth Malthil judged that the one who fought him was probably not Darth Sidious himself, the two powerful Sith Lords were already facing each other, face to face. End of this chapter. Chapter 1634, Half a Caddy. In the outer space battlefield of planet Anji, the fleets of the two sides collided with extreme violence. Under the command of Volgograd Kennedy, the 10 Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers of the Principality of Dawn fleet rushed directly to the front. They turned their hulls sideways and unleashed the firepower of 8 heavy laser cannons on each side. The dense firepower of the Galactic Republic fleet poured over, primarily targeting the Hell's Angels at the front. However, the Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers were equipped with thick armor and a solid electrothermal armor coating, effectively absorbing the turbolaser cannon fire, rendering the attacks futile. Cassio Tag, the commander of the Republic fleet, quickly noticed this. He ordered his last 5 Knight-class Star Destroyers to lead the charge, supported by 5 4,000-meter Governor-class ships for a sudden attack. The Knight-class Star Destroyers, equipped with 60 X-9 twin-mounted heavy turbolaser cannons and 60 ion cannons designed to destroy shields, needed to get close to be effective due to the short range of the ion cannons. As a high-achieving student, Cassio Tag had some real skills. He discovered the heat-absorbing function of the Hell's Angel-class battlecruiser's outer armor from battlefield data scans and immediately thought of using the ion cannon attacks from the Knight-class Star Destroyers to increase the energy supply pressure on the Hell's Angels through electromagnetic damage. However, the number of Knight-class Star Destroyers was still too small. The bulky Governor-class battleships, equipped with 40 ion cannons each, could provide some help, so Cassio Tag sent them along. Volgograd Kennedy responded in kind, ordering the Disaster-class battlecruisers in the rear to target the Governor-class battleships of the Republic fleet. The powerful particle light spear and the speed of light attack posed a direct threat to the Governor-class battlecruisers. The 5 Dunov-class battlecruisers moved closer to the Hell's Angels, using their engine overload and remote power transmission equipment to quickly replenish energy for the Hell's Angels, preventing the armor coating from failing due to power outages. If the armor coating failed, the outer armor belt would quickly melt and fall off under intense attacks, exposing the fragile internal structure of the battleship. Simultaneously, the Behemoth-class battlecruisers began using Yamato cannons to bombard the Hunter-class battlecruisers of the Republic fleet. Despite the Jaeger-class battlecruisers' numerical superiority, the shelling from both sides was temporarily evenly matched. At this moment, a variable occurred in the second battle group, the Fleet of the Dead. After the Red Comet was fully charged, Darth Malthil took off in a fighter jet again. As expected, Force-sensitive individuals on the Republic side also took off in dozens of ETA-2 fighter jets to meet them. But this time, Darth Malthil took a completely different course of action. He ordered the 6 Knight-class Star Destroyers and 4 Jaeger-class battlecruisers of the second battle group to rush forward with an indomitable attitude, as if they were going to collide. The battleships also opened fire. Although the accuracy was poor under the control of the Walking Dead, the firepower density of the 60 XX-9 heavy turbo laser cannons of the Knight class still managed to hit a significant amount of targets. Meanwhile, Darth Malthil began to focus on maneuvering and did not engage the ETA-2 fighters head-on. Instead, he flew towards the Republic fleet at high speed. Whenever he noticed the enemy chasing him, he immediately hid himself, repeating his tactics. Under the cover fire of the second battle group, the forces continued their relentless charge forward. This tactic had proven effective time and again. As the Red Comet advanced, dozens of ETA-2 fighter jets attempted to intercept but were repelled by the anti-aircraft firepower of the second battle group. Darth Malthil, determined to avoid direct confrontation, sought every opportunity to approach the Republic's fleet. Seeing this, Cassio Tag, the commander-in-chief of the Galactic Republic fleet, had no choice but to order his fleet to retreat to evade the second battle group. Simultaneously, he deployed 200 fighter jets as reinforcements, intending to continue engaging Darth Malthael. Under the relentless assault of Darth Malthael and the second battle group, the battle turned into a chase. In this pursuit, the fleet of the Principality of Dawn gained the upper hand, destroying 4 Jaeger-class battlecruisers of the Republic. However, they suffered damage to 2 Hell Angels, which needed to be towed back for repairs. The Republic fleet discovered that in a retreat scenario, the Jaeger-class performed better than the Knight class. The Jaeger-class's unique turret layout, with 8 XX-9 heavy turbolaser gun turrets positioned on both sides of the bridge at the rear, allowed it to maintain full firepower while retreating. This design flaw made it difficult for the Jaeger class to utilize its full firepower when facing the enemy head-on. In this battle, Darth Malthael pursued the Republic battleship for over 200,000 kilometers, continuously engaging the ETA-2 fighter jets piloted by those sensitive to the dark side of the Force. The second battle group, controlled by B-1 battle droids and reanimated soldiers, advanced relentlessly. Ultimately, Darth Malthael shot down 5 more ETA-2 fighter jets and managed to seize control of 2 Jaeger-class battlecruisers that failed to escape. Despite their efforts, the second battle group faced extreme resistance from the Galactic Republic, resulting in the destruction of all 4 Jaeger-class battlecruisers. During the battle, Darth Malthael received a notification from the hyperspace outpost about another fluctuation in hyperspace. Consequently, the fleet of the Principality of Dawn and the second battle group of the Death Fleet returned to the outer perimeter of the Anji planet's defense line to regroup. 30 minutes later, a violent flicker of white light signaled the arrival of 20 Jaeger-class battlecruisers, which jumped out of hyperspace and appeared in the Anji galaxy. The 6th battle group of the Galactic Republic had arrived on the battlefield, shifting the situation in an extremely unfavorable direction for the Principality of Dawn. It was clear that the Galactic Republic would continue to send additional battle groups, while the Duchy of Dawn had no more reinforcements to call upon. End of this chapter. Chapter 1635, Surprising Victory. Darth Malthael returned to the hangar platform of a Knight-class Star Destroyer. A ground crew of B-1 battle droids immediately approached to refuel his Red Comet, replenish its energy, and replace its capacitors. At that moment, the commander of a B-1 battle droid, distinguished by its blue paint, approached and said, "Sir, those cryogenic humans are seriously depleted during the battle, and we need to replenish them." Cryogenic humans. Darth Malthael was taken aback by this peculiar term. "Sir, those low-temperature human processors are too low-level. They cannot execute the buffering program when they are attacked, and they cannot get up when they hit the console during the battleship's vibrations," the B-1 droid commander explained. "Notify Planetary Command to bring in more B-1 droids," Darth Malthael ordered. "Roger, roger." The B-1 droid commander responded with a comically exaggerated military salute. Darth Malthael ignored the B-1 battle droids, who had somehow picked up new terminology, and headed straight to the bridge of the battleship. He initiated communication with Commander Volgograd Kanedi. "Your Excellency, the Grand Duke," Volgograd Kanedi began, getting straight to the point. "According to the current situation, we cannot defend the Anji galaxy. We don't know the exact number of warships the Galactic Republic has, but if we go by the information from the representative of the Rendili Star Power Company, the number will not be less than 300. So, less than half of their forces are here now?" Darth Malthael's tone was icy. "There are about 110 warships here now. Counting the ones we destroyed and captured, there are almost 150 ships. This is just an optimistic estimate. As a competitor, Kuat Power Shipyard would not let the representatives of Rendili Star Power Company see their full strength," Volgograd Kanedi replied. "And we only have 80 main battleships. Even if we add more than 300 smaller ships, we cannot withstand the offensive of the Galactic Republic." The number of kilometer-class battleships that the Galactic Republic could deploy was comparable to the number of frigates on their side. Darth Malthael's face darkened. The productivity gap between the two sides was indeed vast. Before the war in the Principality of Dawn, they had about 150 to 200 main battleships. At that time, the main battleships were mostly Cole-class battlecruisers and Higra-class battlecruisers, with even fewer Martha-class missile heavy cruisers. After several fierce battles with the Galactic Republic, the fleet suffered heavy losses in the Battle of Terminus, losing its ability to launch active attacks. At that time, including Darth Malthael, the supreme military command of the Fourth Civilization, had begun to formulate a plan to use the planet Terminus, a transportation hub in the Outer Ring, as a base to confront the Galactic Republic. By a stroke of luck, when Severance Tan led the Plague Titan battleship and was pursued by almost the entire Galactic Republic, she accidentally discovered the Blade Fleet. They managed to seize 178 of the 200 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers in the Blade Fleet, reorganizing an offensive that caught the Galactic Republic completely off guard. They eventually occupied the planet Eliadu, securing the most important transportation hub in the middle of the galaxy, significantly expanding the Fourth Civilization's strategic space. In the next 9 months, 10 months a year in the Star Wars universe, the Fourth Civilization quietly completed the replacement of naval warships. In cooperation with corporate giants such as the Interstellar Banking Association and the Trade Federation, and with the help of the Solarians, they developed a series of new warships, including the Behemoth-class battlecruiser, the Disaster-class battlecruiser, the Hell's Angel-class battlecruiser, and the Doomsday Battlefield-class battlecruiser. Over the past 9 months, the Principality of Dawn has successfully formed an effective combat fleet. They have acquired approximately 120 ships, with only a few new warships stationed in the Yago Dur galaxy for defense. The rest are here. It's important to note that the production of these warships had to account for those retained by corporate giants and those delivered to the Fourth Group for combat in the northern battlefield. In total, the new warship output is close to 300. Compared to the pre-war period, the industrial capabilities of the Duchy of Dawn have improved significantly. Looking ahead, if the Lundley trade route can be established and the population and industrial capacity of the planet Lundili can be integrated, the Duchy of Dawn will experience long-term industrial growth. However, even with these advancements, their industrial production capacity remains minuscule compared to that of the Galactic Republic. Your Excellency, we must consider the worst-case scenario, Volgograd Kennedy said. Tell me about your plan, Darth Malthael responded directly. If we engage in a direct fleet strength competition, we will undoubtedly lose. Even with your power, we can only contain a small number of their warships. I believe that once the Republic's fleet exceeds 200 ships, they will launch an attack that we cannot stop, Kennedy explained. Why 200 ships? Malthael inquired. With 200 capital ships, they can divide their fleet into 3 groups, ensuring that each group is evenly matched with our entire defensive fleet, Kennedy replied. I suspect their strategy involves using this peculiar hyperspace jumping method to encircle us and then launch an all-out attack from multiple directions. He glanced at Darth Malthael with a hint of fear in his eyes. But your formidable power has thwarted their plan. So, they will likely gather their fleet in one direction and then divide their forces for an offensive. Although this reduces the pressure on us to spread our defenses, their strength remains formidable. If we can't win in a direct confrontation, how can we achieve victory through surprise? Darth Malthael asked. I don't possess the strategic genius of General Severance Tan, and I can't win by surprise in a situation where both sides have revealed their cards, Volgograd Kennedy admitted with a sigh. However, I do have a plan to disperse the forces of the Galactic Republic. Explain, Malthael commanded. We need to give them more combat targets, Kennedy suggested. They have traveled a great distance, and their most urgent need is to secure a planet as a forward base. Planet Anji is the ideal choice. Currently, the inhabitants of the planet are evacuating to the suburbs. We can deliberately expose vulnerabilities and allow the Galactic Republic to land on the planet. His voice grew quieter, and he finally murmured, "I just hope that after the victory, you will not forget the contributions of the people of the Mordel sector." Chapter 1636, Desperate Struggle. Volgograd Kennedy closed his eyes, his facial muscles twitching slightly, and his eye sockets reddening. He knew all too well what his proposed plan meant for the residents of the planet Anji. It wasn't just about removing all defenses and allowing the Galactic Republic to carry out a landing operation. Even if the Galactic Republic wanted to launch the landing as soon as possible, they had to follow certain protocols. When the Fourth Fleet of the Galactic Republic arrived, they brought 5 Cheer-class assault landing ships, clearly indicating their intent to start the landing immediately. Following the arrival of the 6th batch of warships, several transport ships also arrived. After unloading their cargo, these transport ships entered the hyperspace channel to return forcibly. These actions were completely monitored by the supersensors built on the Argonev-class interstellar base. The hyperspace channel in the Mater star area was extremely dangerous. While not completely unnavigable, the success rate of a successful passage was just over 50%. Additionally, hyperspace jammers built in the Anji galaxy constantly disrupted the calculation of hyperspace jumps, making it take longer for spacecraft to enter the hyperspace channel from the Anji galaxy. Spaceships that failed to jump in hyperspace would be thrown to an unknown place if they were lucky. If not, they could collide with the mass projections of stars in hyperspace and be torn into fragments smaller than molecules. Colliding with mass projections in hyperspace, although these projections had no physical entity, the immense mass would cause part of the affected spaceship to slow down suddenly, while the unaffected part continued at the speed of light. The result was catastrophic. From these details, it was evident that the fleet of the Galactic Republic had traversed almost the entire galaxy, facing significant supply issues. Their commanders were well aware of this, so they aimed to speed up the landing process while also planning the supply line operation as soon as possible, even at the cost of numerous transport ships. Understanding this mentality, Volgograd Kennedy proposed the plan to let the Galactic Republic land on the planet Anji. Unlike the fleet led by Master Yoda before, the Republic fleet that arrived in anger this time would show no mercy. They would launch a devastating bombing on the planet Anji before allowing their troops to land. Kennedy could hardly imagine the terrible situation the residents of Anji would face during this process, but he had no choice. He truly had no choice. He once fantasized that the Galactic Republic would be unable to launch an attack on the Mater sector. He also fantasized that under the power of Darth Malthael, the Galactic Republic's fleet would collapse, even destroying the opponent's flagship. However, with the emergence of a mysterious master from the Galactic Republic, flying fighter jets to engage Darth Malthael for an extended period, and continuous reinforcement fleets arriving, these fantasies were completely shattered. He had no way to resist the offensive of the Galactic Republic, even with Darth Malthael present. All he could do was make a desperate move. Remember the contributions of the people of the Mater Star District? Ha! Darth Malthael sneered. The problem of the Mater Star District must also be resolved after this battle is over, and the person to solve this problem can only be you. It doesn't matter whether I will remember those civilians. For me, the only thing that matters is the Mordel sector. He stared at Volgograd Kennedy like a poisonous snake and said slowly, "In other words, the fate of the people in the Mordel sector does not depend on me, because my attitude will never change. The only one who can control their fate is you." Kennedy fell silent. After a long pause, he said slowly, "Then, let's do this." The battle in the outer space of Anji planet suddenly showed a strange calm. Neither the Principality of Dawn nor the expedition-airy fleet of the Galactic Republic launched any more attacks. However, reinforcements from the Galactic Republic continued to arrive in a steady stream. The 7th batch brought 10 Hunter-class ships and 50 transport ships. The 8th batch included 20 Hunter-class ships and 10 transport ships. The 9th batch consisted of 5 Prosecutor-class battlecruisers and 5 Hunter-class battlecruisers. The 10th batch, the 11th batch. The number of ships in the Galactic Republic's fleet kept increasing. widening the gap between the two sides to a nearly desperate extent. On the bridge of the Republic Expeditionary Fleet's flagship, the commander-class dreadnought ship Tag, Rear Admiral Cassio Tag, the fleet's commander-in-chief, no longer felt the unease he had when he first arrived. On the contrary, as more and more warships joined, he became filled with ambition. Victory seemed close at hand, within reach. Ha! Is it the Dawn Star? Is it the Dead Angel? That's all! Ha! Cassio Tag took a sip of fine wine from a crystal cup. Suddenly, a gloomy voice came from behind him. You have no idea how much we paid to stop the Dead Angel, how much the speaker paid. Cassio Tag turned his head to see the short, fat, bald-headed man Sakuis, who had appeared behind him without notice. Despite his appearance, Sakuis was a person of interest, especially after mentioning the speaker's name. Cassio Tag quickly put down his glass and said seriously, "It is precisely because of the hard work of you and the speaker that we have the opportunity to taste the fruit of victory. Otherwise, I really don't know how to resist the Dead Angel's power to control death. This makes our victory even more precious. I'm not here to listen to compliments. Our goal is only one, victory." Sakuisi's tone was extremely cold. The greater the price we pay, the more unbearable the consequences of failure. The time is almost here. We have enough warships, our personnel have been rotated, and our morale has greatly improved compared to before. Now our entire army is full of confidence and desire for victory. It's time to deliver the final blow to the Angel of Death. Cassio Tag said seriously. He glanced at the wineglass he had placed beside him, couldn't resist, and drank it down. Then he added, "In 5 hours, the 16th batch of spaceships will arrive. This batch is a supply fleet composed entirely of transport ships. They will bring a large amount of supplies, giving us even more confidence to launch the most powerful offensive." Chapter 1637, The Third Battle of the Mordell Sector, Part 1, BBY, July 30th, Outer Space of Planet Anji, capital of the Mordell Sector. Under the relentless reinforcements of the Galactic Republic's Expeditionary Fleet, the number of capital ships had swelled to over 170, organized into 8 battle groups, showcasing formidable military might. The fleet's commander, Cassio Tag, renowned as a genius academy general, issued a decisive order for a full-scale assault. He directed all battleships to attack from 4 directions. 2 squadrons, each comprising a battle group, were tasked with assaulting the north and south poles of planet Anji. The remaining 2 squadrons, each consisting of 3 battle groups, were ordered to target the critical defense facilities on the outskirts of Anji, specifically the Argonev-class interstellar base. Simultaneously, the Republic fleet launched over 5,000 fighter jets, including more than 300 Y-wing bombers, to prepare for a bombing run on the Argonev-class interstellar base. Volgograd Kanedi, the commander-in-chief of the Principality of Dawn's fleet, responded swiftly. He recalled most of his battleships to reinforce the interstellar base's defenses. Meanwhile, under the cover of a satellite, 10 disaster-class battlecruisers, hidden in the shadows, began bombarding the large and outdated Governor-class battleships and Prosecutor-class battlecruisers of the Republic fleet. As the full-speed assault continued, the accuracy of the particle lances improved significantly. Despite the Republic fleet's best efforts to evade, a Governor-class battleship was destroyed by a particle lance. Its hull penetrated multiple times before exploding in a sacrificial blast. The 4,000-meter-long battleship was obliterated without even grazing the enemy. This was only the beginning. As the distance between the two sides closed, the devastating power of the particle lances became a nightmare for the Republic fleet. These light-speed energy weapons boasted super-long range and immense power, making them nearly perfect. Although the main weapons of both sides had an effective range of about 10 light minutes, actual combat distances were generally within 1 light second, often below 100,000 kilometers. At such ranges, the particle lances were almost impossible to dodge, hitting their targets with deadly precision. Outdated battleships like the Invincible-class battlecruiser were particularly vulnerable, often succumbing to a single shot that ignited the shield capacitor compartment, followed by another shot that pierced the hull from head to tail. The Jaeger-class battlecruisers fared little better, unless they concentrated all their energy on their shields, which could only withstand one shot before failing. However, Cassio Tag was determined to overwhelm the enemy, even if it meant sacrificing battleships. Under his command, the Republic warships advanced at full speed, with some vessels breaking off to bombard the satellite. Knight-class star destroyers and Governor-class battleships unleashed devastating orbital bombardments with powerful turbolasers. The Governor-class battleships also launched powerful nuclear missiles, causing the 2,000-kilometer diameter satellite to erupt in a cataclysmic explosion. Lava flowed, crustal plates shifted violently, and devastating geological phenomena ensued. Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and airwaves from the explosion surged thousands of kilometers into the sky. Under such immense pressure, the 10 disaster-class battlecruisers were forced to reveal themselves. "Kill them!" Cassio Tag commanded, his eyes fixed on the exposed disaster-class battlecruisers. He gritted his teeth in hatred. Since the war began, the losses caused by the catastrophe-level events have been the heaviest, second only to the Fallen Angel. During this assault, the disaster-class battlecruiser destroyed 1 Governor-class, 1 Prosecutor-class, 5 Invincible-class, and 4 Jaeger-class ships. The loss of 11 battleships was incurred just to get closer. If these catastrophe-level threats were not eliminated soon, who knows what severe consequences they might cause. A large formation of Galactic Republic fighters rushed towards the catastrophe. However, Volgograd Kennedy was prepared. The Martha-class missile heavy cruiser immediately launched a salvo of missiles. The Huoyan series of missiles created a terrifying barrage thousands of kilometers in front of the disaster level, filling the entire space with a deadly radiation cloud. While this radiation cloud was ineffective against large battleships, it spelled disaster for fighter jets. Simultaneously, dozens of Guard-class air defense destroyers rushed to support. Although each Guard-class air defense destroyer is equipped with only 8 multifunctional close-in defense guns, under the control of the most advanced fire control system, they posed a deadly threat to the fighter jets. Due to their high performance and low cost, the Guard-class air defense destroyer, along with the Javelin-class guided missile frigate, has long been a staple in the Fourth Civilization's navy. The Republic's fighter formation seemed to hit an invisible wall and scattered to avoid the barrage from the Martha-class missile heavy cruiser. However, the scattered fighters were immediately targeted by the Guard-class air defense destroyers, resulting in a large number of them being shot down. Despite these losses, they were insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Cassio Tag, on the flagship bridge, roared and ordered more fighters to take off. The siege of the Argonev-class interstellar base began anew. The Argonev-class interstellar base was armed to the teeth, with weapons densely packed on almost every inch of its surface. The barrage from live ammunition weapons, combined with precise bursts from energy weapons, created an impenetrable net of air defense. Nevertheless, the Republic pilots pressed on. They roared and charged, firing all the proton torpedoes and concussion missiles their fighters carried at the interstellar base before being shot down. The sheer number of Galactic Republic fighters eventually overwhelmed the anti-aircraft firepower of the Argonev-class interstellar base. Other battleships seized the opportunity to rush in and bombard the interstellar base indiscriminately. The fleet of the Principality of Dawn also fired relentlessly. The Yamato cannons of the Behemoth-class battlecruiser continued to fire until the energy lines overheated. The Dunov-class battlecruiser continuously supplied energy and replenished shields for the Hell's Angel-class battlecruiser. In this intense battle, the Hell's Angels battlecruisers shone brightly. Despite 2 ships being severely damaged before deployment, the remaining 8 Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers charged directly into the Republic fleet formation. The powerful laser cannons on each side fired wildly, causing significant damage to the Republic fleet. Chapter 1638, The Third Battle of the Mordell Sector, Part 2. The battle in the outer space of Anji's planet had reached a fever pitch. Shortly after the conflict began, the satellite orbiting the planet was bombarded, its surface almost completely obliterated. The satellite transformed into a blazing fireball, casting an eerie glow over the battlefield. Nearly 300 massive battleships from both sides clashed ferociously, turning the area into a scene of utter devastation, reminiscent of hell. The battlefield was divided into 5 distinct zones. Near the satellite, the Republic fleet deployed a large number of fighter jets to besiege the disaster-class battlecruiser. Meanwhile, the main fleet of the Republic relentlessly bombarded the Arganev-class interstellar base. At the north and south poles of Anji, over a dozen Republic warships targeted the planetary shield. If the shield were breached, these ships could commence orbital bombardment, causing the polar glaciers to melt, triggering tsunamis and sea level surges, and devastating coastal cities. For the Galactic Republic, dealing with a planet suffering from rising sea levels was far easier than one completely ravaged by orbital bombardment, especially since they intended to use Anji as a forward base for further assaults on the Principality of Dawn's core territories. The final battlefield was the most peculiar. The former Galactic Republic Expeditionary Fleet's second battle group, now controlled by robots and the undead, had 6 Knight-class Star Destroyers and 2 Hunter-class battlecruisers left, albeit heavily damaged. Darth Malthael had used the Force of Death to control these ships during the counterattack, but 4 Jaeger-class ships had already been sunk. This time, however, the Death Fleet seemed to have lost its vigor. They engaged in long-range fire, but lacked the previous ferocity. While these ships exchanged fire, the Xingzi-class maintenance drone Mothership worked tirelessly to repair the Knight-class Star Destroyers, whose firepower was second only to the particle light spear of the Disaster-class battlecruiser. Darth Malthael, piloting his Red Comet fighter, remained elusive, constantly seeking opportunities to board Republic battleships, use the Force of Death to kill their crews, and commandeer the ships. The Galactic Republic, however, was determined to thwart his plans. Saquis and John Droga, 2 powerful dark-side Force-sensitive members of the Hand of the Speaker, led dozens of Dark Jedi Knights in an aerial battle against Darth Malthael. Their goal was to delay the Sith Lord and create opportunities for their fleet to achieve its objectives. Darth Malthael did not recognize his opponents, but he sensed that one of them wielded a strange yet powerful force akin to Darth Sidious. This power effectively countered his death force, preventing him from achieving his goals. Darth Malthael could no longer expand his power as recklessly as before, turning all his enemies into walking dead. He had tried to fight back directly, as he had during his previous confrontation with Darth Sidious on the planet Korriban. Back then, his death force had penetrated Sidious's black hole-like dark side power, absorbing about 10 years of Sidious's life force. But this time, even though his death force passed through Sidious's power, he couldn't find a target. This made him certain that Darth Sidious was not present. However, he was unsure how Sidious's power was holding him back. In Volgograd Kanidi's plan, he didn't need to go all out against his opponent. Instead, he focused his main energy on probing the enemy. He was determined to uncover what Darth Sidious was up to. Although the scale of the battle in this direction was small, the danger was no less than in other areas. A single mistake could lead Darth Malthael into the battleship formation of the Galactic Republic, resulting in catastrophe. During the battle that spanned almost every inch of space around Anji's planet, the first sign of trouble came from the direction of the Arganev-class Interstellar, our base. This base was under heavy bombardment from more than 130,000-meter-class battleships from 6 battle groups of the Galactic Republic. Despite the desperate resistance from the fleet of the Duchy of Dawn, the numerical gap between the two sides was too vast. The Duchy of Dawn's fleet had to allocate part of its forces to reinforce the disaster-class battlecruisers, preventing the other 2 battle groups from bombing the planet's north and south poles. The remaining warships were only a third of the opponent's forces. Even though the combat capabilities of the Hells Angels and Behemoth battlecruisers far exceeded those of the Jaeger-class battlecruisers, sheer numbers made a difference. The Jaeger-class's 8 X-9 heavy turbo-laser guns, despite their unusual rear placement, posed a serious threat when deployed in sufficient numbers. Under relentless bombardment, the Arganev-class interstellar base's deflector shield finally broke, and its heavy armor was breached. Several anti-aircraft artillery groups and vertical missile launch positions were destroyed by the Republic's turbolaser cannons, sending flames shooting into the sky. Volgograd Kennedy was at the interstellar base. Even as it was bombarded, he stood motionless in the center of the command center. He ordered the base to release its space anchor, lower its orbital height, and let the gravity of planet Anji capture it, bringing the base into synchronous orbit with the planet. Essentially, he was using the planet's gravity to move the interstellar base out of the main battlefield. As the Argonev-class interstellar base left the main battlefield under the planet's gravitational pull, the front door of the planet opened. Chapter 1639, The Third Battle of the Mordell Sector, Part 3. The Separatist interstellar base has begun to descend. It has entered the synchronous orbit of the planet. The adjutant hurried over and reported to the commander-in-chief, Major General Cassio Tag. Very good. Deploy the Cheer-class assault landing ships immediately. Then instruct all battleships to bombard the planetary shield with full force. Cassio Tag commanded, his voice booming as he waved his hand emphatically. What about the Separatist battleships? The adjutant inquired. Leave their battleships to our fighter formations. Additionally, deploy all bomber squadrons to assist in the bombardment of the planetary shield, Cassio Tag ordered, waving his hand dismissively. His strategy was clear. Use the fighter jets to contain the fleet of the Principality of Dawn, then concentrate all heavy firepower to destroy the planetary shield of planet Anji swiftly and commence the landing. Before the battle began, the two dark-side powerhouses, Sakuis and John Droga, had warned Cassio Tag that if ground combat ensued, the threat of the Dead Angel would be even greater. They cautioned that it would be extremely difficult for the two of them to block the Dead Angel, and the army would have to fend for itself. However, they devised a plan. Wherever the Dead Angel appeared, they would immediately concentrate all long-range firepower for saturation strikes, even resorting to orbital bombardment if necessary. This plan gave Cassio Tag a glimmer of hope, no matter how slim. Cassio Tag, now driven by desperation, found this plan sufficient. He feared having no solution at all, and any chance, however small, was worth pursuing. Since launching this attack and repelling the Argonev-class interstellar base, his fleet had lost over 30 capital ships and more than 2,000 fighter jets, but he had no intention of halting the assault. Attack! Continue the bombardment! Launch all nuclear missiles! Cassio Tag roared. Some warships in the Republic fleet were still equipped with nuclear bombs, including Commander-class dreadnoughts, Governor-class battleships, and Prosecutor-class battlecruisers. These were old warships from a previous era where orbital bombardment was primarily conducted using nuclear missiles. When the Galactic Republic launched the Mandalorian excision on the planet Mandalore 740 years ago, it employed nuclear bombing. However, the Galactic Republic had not focused much on the development of nuclear bombs. Due to Lucen's reforms, the development of nuclear bombs for orbital bombardment was expressly prohibited. In contrast, the Fourth Civilization had advanced their nuclear bombs significantly. Their nuclear bombs had enhanced explosion coverage areas, utilizing large-scale flames and shock waves for ground targets and neutron jets for hidden targets. These methods were combined into a single nuclear bomb, maximizing killing efficiency. The massive and cumbersome battleships began to advance, opening their vertical missile launchers. Powerful nuclear missiles were launched one after another, and enormous fireballs from the nuclear explosions started to light up the planetary shield. Meanwhile, at the command center at the core of the Argonev-class interstellar base, the battleship Long Snake has sustained severe damage. Fighter formations, cover its retreat immediately. Area G99 shield is overloaded. Contact ground engineering at once. Starbase reactor number 7 is on fire. Where's the backup damage control? No, that's the engine. Don't let the B-1 robots handle the damage control. The ground console is reporting an emergency. The planetary shield capacitor is failing. In the G99 area, an explosion erupted. We can't hold it any longer, a voice shouted. We need at least 4 more squadrons of Wraith fighters. We cannot allow the Republic to continue attacking our disaster-class battlecruisers. In the command center, countless staff members were frantically busy, providing support and command for the chaotic battlefield. Volgrad Kanedi stood next to the holographic combat star map, scrutinizing the battlefield situation and issuing commands based on the information relayed to him. After layers of processing and resolution, only the highest level of combat decision-making reached him. He flipped through the densely packed files on his personal terminal, clicked on one, and said, "No, let the disaster-level formation hold on. Without the fire cover of particle light spears, the warships of the Galactic Republic will bombard us even more recklessly. Dispatch 3 more squadrons of ghost fighters from the interstellar base." "Yes, sir." The adjutant immediately stood at attention, saluted, and began to convey the instructions. Volgograd Kanedi looked at another file, then turned to the T-Series tactical robot next to him and asked, "How many Coyote robot bombers do we have?" The Fourth Civilization's army included many T-Series tactical robots. Unlike the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, these robots rarely made battlefield decisions and generally assisted commanders with specific tasks. For detailed data, it was naturally more efficient to ask a tactical robot than a human. "We have 39 Coyote bombers in total," the T-Series tactical robot responded in a flat tone. "Deploy them intensively, bomb the opponent's Governor-class battleship, and try to sink it," Volgograd Kanedi commanded, pointing to the holographic combat star map. He highlighted a 4,000-meter-long warship that was relentlessly firing nuclear bombs as it approached the planet Anji. "Roger," the T-Series tactical robot responded immediately and issued combat instructions to the Coyote robot bomber formation. In a hidden hangar platform, the electronic eyes of 39 Coyote robot bombers lit up with a scarlet glow. They began to stand up, using their deformable wings as 4 legs, and climbed towards the hangar launch channel. Simultaneously, more than a dozen Vulture robot fighters in the hangar were also activated, ready to take off and cover the bombers' operations. Initially, the Navy of the Fourth Civilization was not very interested in the Coyote robot bombers, thinking they overlapped with Viking fighters. However, continuous actual combat revealed that the bomber's basic shape was similar to the Vulture robot fighter, but larger, with a length of 12.48 meters, making its firepower extremely fierce. It was a complete battleship killer. Unlike the Viking fighter, which also undertook aerial combat missions, the Coyote robot bomber was more specialized. The Fourth Civilization subsequently introduced a production license for the Coyote droid bomber and began producing them. Consequently, the research and development of other drone models in the Fourth Civilization leaned more towards air superiority drones, such as the Monk drone, the Swarm drone, and the F-99 Wombat drone. The bomber squadron took off from the hangar platform with cloaking devices deployed. They broke in from the side and rear of the Republic fleet almost without warning, closing in on the hapless Governor-class battleship. End of this chapter. Chapter 1640, The Third Battle of the Mordell Sector, 4. The Governor-class battleship of the Galactic Republic was bombarding the planet Anji with fervor, completely unprepared for the Coyote robot bomber formation attacking from the side and rear. For this mission, the Coyote robot bombers were equipped with an anti-ship attack configuration, carrying 6 concussion missiles, 6 proton torpedoes, and 4 powerful proton bombs each. As they quickly moved into attacking positions, the escorting Vulture robot fighter jets bravely engaged the Galactic Republic's escort fighter formation, which had rushed over in a panic. Seizing this brief moment, 39 Coyote robot bombers launched all their weapons. Previously hit by a particle light spear, the Governor-class battleship's shield was already in a weakened state. The violent bombardment from the Coyote robot bombers caused the deflector shield to fail. Subsequently, 8 proton torpedoes and 3 proton bombs struck the battleship's engine from the rear. In an extremely violent explosion, the Governor-class battleship lost all power. Being very close to the planet, it was immediately captured by the planet's gravity after losing its anti-gravity devices. The entire battleship began to spin and fall rapidly towards the planet. Rescue capsules continuously shot out from the launch stations on both sides of the battleship, indicating that the crew inside were desperately trying to escape. However, only a small number managed to get away. Ultimately, the massive 4,000-meter-long warship completely lost control and crashed into the planetary shield. Under the strong gravitational force and its own immense mass, the entire battleship pressed against the planetary shield. The strong repulsion generated by the deflector shield almost instantly crushed the entire battleship. Then, the huge energy reactor inside the battleship produced an extremely violent explosion. This terrible explosion became the final blow to the planetary shield of Anji. Amidst violent flickering and fluctuations, the planetary shield finally collapsed. "Land now!" Tang shouted, using all his strength to give the order upon seeing the disappearance of the planetary shield. 5 Chira-class assault landing ships, already prepared, immediately rushed into the planet's atmosphere. Simultaneously, 10 Hunter-class battlecruisers provided cover. The Jaeger-class battlecruisers moved to the outer layer of the atmosphere and began deploying more fighter formations. These formations swarmed into the planet Anji like locusts, bombarding their intended targets indiscriminately. Planet Anji was also fully prepared, with countless anti-aircraft guns and orbital defense systems on the ground firing violently. The dense anti-aircraft firepower lit up the entire sky as the Galactic Republic's fighter formations passed by. 3 extremely powerful J-1 proton cannons were pushed out from concealed bunkers, directly targeting one of the Chira-class assault landing ships. The immense power of the 3 J-1 proton cannons penetrated the abdomen of the Chira-class assault landing ship. Numerous goods and clone soldiers fell out of the breached area amidst the violent explosion, and even a few ATE walkers were seen plummeting down. Suffering devastating damage, the Chira-class assault landing ship began to flee in a panic, attempting to leave the atmosphere. Meanwhile, a large group of Galactic Republic fighter jets locked onto the position of the proton cannons, rushing over with the intent to prioritize destroying these powerful anti-aircraft weapons. But before they could, the J-1 proton cannon fired again, striking the Chira-class assault landing ship once more. The landing craft finally lost power and began to plummet towards the ground. As it fell, the landing ship opened all its hangar platforms, allowing the transport planes and LA assault transport boats to take off as quickly as possible. However, the fighter jets deployed in the atmosphere over the planet Anji joined the fray, launching a relentless attack on the hastily departing transport ships. Boom! The ground shook violently when the Chira-class assault landing ship finally crashed. More than 80% of the over 15,000 clone troopers aboard the landing ship failed to escape. Meanwhile, in other directions, 4 additional Chira-class assault landing ships initiated their landings, supported by powerful anti-aircraft firepower. Simultaneously, other warships of the Galactic Republic mercilessly commenced a devastating orbital bombardment on the planet Anji. This orbital bombardment was ruthless. They targeted the north and south poles to melt the glaciers and bombed the planet's transportation hubs and industrial centers to cripple its defenses swiftly. However, the defense of an entire planet is not easily overcome. Even with the planetary shield destroyed, the ground counterattack remained formidable. The orbital defense cannon, built on the foundation of an enormous energy reactor, was far more powerful than the main cannon of a star destroyer. Its only weakness was its immobility, limiting its targeting opportunities as the planet rotated. Despite this, the orbital defense cannon managed to shoot down several Galactic Republic warships. At the same time, fighter planes from both sides engaged in a fierce battle in the atmosphere. This was a life-and-death struggle. The outcome hinged on whether the Galactic Republic could endure the heavy losses or if the defenders of Anji would fight to their last breath. At this critical moment, outside the Anji galaxy, white light flickered violently as 15 more Jaeger-class battlecruisers emerged from the hyperspace channel. Upon arrival, they immediately received orders from Tang and rushed towards the battlefield of planet Anji without delay. The warships prepared by the Galactic Republic and the Kuat Power shipyard for this battle were far from exhausted. Meanwhile, in the capital of Dawn Star, Dawn City, a beautiful blonde woman was busy in the kitchen of an unremarkable 2-story building on the outskirts of the city. Her slightly swollen abdomen indicated she was pregnant. With a happy expression, she gently stroked her stomach with one hand, while skillfully flipping fried eggs in the pan with the other. Soon, the delicious breakfast was ready. The woman turned and called out, "James, James, I prepared breakfast for you. It's time to get up." However, there was no response from inside the house. "James!" The woman set the plate down and walked towards the second floor. She found a man in a large nightgown staring at a holographic projection in the study. The projection displayed an extremely tragic scene. "They are bombing the planet Anji," the man sighed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1641, New Member of the Military Intelligence Department. The blonde woman gazed at the tragic scene in the holographic projection. She understood the gravity of the situation, but still managed to force a smile. She walked over, gently leaned on James Bond's shoulder, and whispered, "But you have already retired. You said the last time you came back that you would no longer perform missions." James Bond's smile was somewhat strained. He turned to her and said, "The last mission was to save Dr. Zhang Jiarui. On planet Kuat, well, a lot happened, so they agreed to my retirement application." "Then you should enjoy your retirement, James," the blonde woman said. "You deserve it. Look around here at the bustling Dawn City. You contributed to this, and that's enough." "This time it's different, dear." James Bond smiled wryly, grabbed the woman's delicate hand, and rubbed it against his face. Then he suddenly asked, "Tell me, what is the mission this time?" "What did you say?" The blonde woman was shocked. She quickly looked around, but saw nothing. "It is indeed our fault to disturb your retirement, but this time we really need your help, James Bond." A pleasant female voice suddenly filled the air. "Who are you? Show yourself." The blonde woman was furious, yelling at the surrounding air. James Bond patted the back of the blonde woman's hand to calm her down, and then asked, "Is it something about the model sector?" "You know what's going on over there," the melodious female voice replied. "James has retired. You gave him a life, but he gave you far more in return. He risked his life for you, went to the most dangerous places to perform missions. When will it end?" the blonde woman cried, tears streaming down her face. "The war is not over. Each of us is involuntary," the melodious female voice continued. "Even Tang Xiao, the Grand Duke of Liming, is fighting at the forefront of planet Anji at this moment. And we, naturally, should do something to make it better." "Yes." James Bond stood up, gave the blonde woman a hug, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "It's not about me, my dear. This woman is right. If our war is not stopped, I will not be able to retire for a day. Look here." He pointed to the holographic projection screen. "Tens of thousands of people may die in each of these beams and explosions. How can I sit idly by? If everyone is entangled in the issue of one life and two lives, then there will be no one on this front. And then what will happen? The Galactic Republic will come to planet Dawn, destroy our homeworld, and make us all their slaves." At this moment, a flash of lightning suddenly appeared in the air, and then a figure gradually materialized. Actually, this battlefield footage was sent to him just now. These images are too brutal to broadcast to the public. A woman wearing a tight combat uniform, full of advanced technology, and a pair of electronic tactical eyepieces hanging on her forehead stood before them. The tight-fitting combat uniform vividly outlined her slim and attractive figure, enough to make almost every man turn his head. Her flowing golden hair, shining brightly in the morning sun, was simply tied into a big ponytail. Her beautiful face, full of youth and beauty, did not lose its heroic atmosphere. Compared to her, the blonde woman next to James Bond seemed to become extremely ordinary in an instant. However, this woman's body contained countless top-level technological equipment, always reminding those around her that even if she was a rose with deadly poison. Facing such a stunning beauty, James Bond showed a look of appreciation, but his eyes remained clear, devoid of undue desire. He smiled slightly and, "I've never seen you in the military intelligence department. Even if I had just caught a glimpse, I would never forget a woman as remarkable as you," James Bond said, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Your thoughts are very clean, James Bond. This is quite different from your previous romantic escapades," the woman replied, curling her lips into a smirk. Her words stung, much like her actions. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Nova. I just joined the Military Intelligence Department and am one of the members of the operation team this time." She glanced at the woman standing next to James and added, It's time to discuss business. Can I ask the unrelated parties to leave? James Bond frowned. He didn't like this new female agent named Nova, despite the powerful aura she exuded. All of her actions seemed self-centered. Since her arrival, she hadn't considered his feelings or those of his partner. Her earlier insinuation about his past relationships was uncalled for and inconsiderate of the impact it might have on his partner. He couldn't recall ever provoking this woman, yet she spoke as if he had. It only showed that this was her usual demeanor. James Bond responded sternly. From the moment you recklessly displayed a picture that should not be public for my lover to see, she ceased to be an outsider. She is my lover, my everything. She has the right to know what I am going to do this time, and this is my request. Otherwise, you can find someone else. Nova's face showed a hint of impatience. This is top secret. If she is involved, the risk of leaking the secret increases. She will always stay at Dawnstar. If even Dawnstar is at risk, then I don't think other places will be much safer, James Bond replied with a slight smile. He gestured towards the sofa in front of him. So why not sit down, have a cup of coffee my wife made, and have an honest talk? Before they knew it, the rhythm of their conversation had been controlled by James Bond. He had turned the tables and kicked the ball back to Nova. You appear relaxed on the surface, but your mind is full of calculations. Interesting, Nova chuckled. Suddenly, she appeared beside the blonde woman, raised her hand lightly, and the woman fainted to the ground. Chapter 1642, Secret Plan. Seeing the scene unfold, James Bond's face turned grim. He gently placed his lover on the sofa, but his demeanor instantly became dangerous and deadly. What do you mean? He demanded. Don't worry, it's just a harmless psychic energy that stimulates her sleep function and makes her fall asleep immediately, Nova explained as she walked over and sat on the sofa in front of him. This action signaled a compromise. Both had been trying to control the rhythm of their interaction, but Nova's move to incapacitate Bond's lover showed she was at a disadvantage in their verbal confrontation. Nova knew this, but refused to admit defeat, making the atmosphere tense. James Bond stared at the thorny beauty before him, a trace of disgust in his expression. Although both were agents, they were fundamentally different types of people. Despite his disgust, Bond felt a sense of responsibility to his country and decided to break the deadlock. Tell me, what's the plan? How do we help the front line? He asked. Nova removed a small memory card from the slot at her waist, pressed a button, and the memory began to project data in the form of a holographic display. This attack by the Galactic Republic on the model sector was unforeseen by anyone except Tang Xiao, the Duke of Dawn. The Military Intelligence Department consulted His Excellency, and he told Mrs. M that his judgment was based on the intuition of the Force, not technical reasons, Nova explained. So the problem is, we don't know how the Galactic Republic reached the Mordell sector. And with such a huge fleet, James Bond added, even when Master Yoda opened that channel before, it didn't have such a large throughput. The Scientific Research Department has conducted numerous studies and, combined with information from the hyperspace outpost, concluded that this must be the result of an external influence, Nova said. So your plan is to identify this external influence and destroy it, Bond surmised. I like talking to smart people, Nova smiled. But maybe I don't think so, Bond sneered, leaning back on the sofa. It seems you and Gabriel Tosh are the same kind of person, ghost agents, but I actually prefer him. He will also participate in this operation, Nova said, her expression changing slightly at the mention of Tosh. She then added defensively, don't think you know something just because you read my micro-expressions. It's none of your business. She stood up irritably. That's the way it is. Let's make a decision. The telepathy of a ghost agent is indeed powerful, Bond acknowledged. But what mission requires you and 2 ghost agents, including Tosh, to come to me, an old man? I'm a ghost, not one of those drug addicts who call themselves specters, Nova retorted coldly. All right, Ghost, Bond waved his hand dismissively. We found a middleman who knows some secret information about the recent abnormal material flow of the Galactic Republic, but we couldn't get in touch with him. This person is very cunning and cautious. I believe his willpower is strong, making it impossible to read the deep information in his brain just by telepathy. Nova explained seriously. The blonde woman woke up from her sleep to find her lover, James Bond, lying beside her, protecting her with his broad and strong chest. "Honey, what happened? I should be preparing breakfast for you," she said, confused. "You fell asleep at the dining table," James Bond replied indulgently. "The medical robot has just checked you, and it seems you have some hypoglycemia due to the pregnancy. You need to rest well during this period." Couldn't it be?" the blonde woman asked sharply. "Yes, there is a mission," James Bond replied, placing a finger on the woman's lips to stop her from speaking further. "And I can't refuse this time." "The model star area." The woman's expression darkened. "I understand. Will you come back alive?" "Of course, I'll come back alive. I always do," James Bond assured her with a warm smile. As Bond stepped outside, where a taxi was waiting, he opened the door and sat in the back. Soon, an electric current flashed on the seat next to him, and Nova's figure appeared, sitting beside him. "Finished?" Nova asked lightly. "None of your business," James Bond retorted. Nova didn't respond. Instead, she knocked on the seat. The driving robot immediately started the advanced hover car that looked like a taxi from the outside. "Let's back up the memory first," Nova said, pulling a few data cables from the front and handing them to James Bond. "I did it when I came here. The chances of not coming back alive from this mission are very high." James Bond glanced at her, took the data cables, and attached two to his temples. The other one he inserted into a data interface hidden under a piece of simulated skin at the back of his head. He closed his eyes, relaxed his body, and waited for the data backup process to complete. James asked casually, "You seem very young, but I sense a lot of darkness in you. Did you become an agent at a very young age?" "My past is not important. The task comes first," Nova replied coolly. "Did you know Gabriel Tosh before?" "I don't know him well, and it has nothing to do with you." "So, you do know him? Was he a boyfriend?" "Don't entertain such messy thoughts. You'll soon find out that this is the biggest offense for telepaths." "It's nice to be young," James Bond mused. The hover car stopped at a spaceport, and the memory backup was completed. James Bond removed the data cables, sat up again, and looked around. A spaceship was ready. "Shall we go now?" he asked. "Yes, let's go. There is some equipment on the spaceship that can help you with a complete makeover," Nova said. Chapter 1643, Infiltrating, Part 1. We don't know if your body shape and appearance have entered the database of the Galactic Republic Intelligence Department, but we must assume the worst. Therefore, you need to become an entirely different person, Nova explained. "Of course, we will restore you after the mission is over." Nova walked into the spaceship, setting aside the large sniper rifle she carried on her back. She then pointed to the medical cabin ahead. James Bond didn't hesitate and walked in directly. A doctor floated over with 3 medical robots, guiding him to the central operating area and laying him on the operating platform. "Relax, this operation is not painful. I have already formulated a complete plastic surgery plan for you, which will completely transform you into another person. At the same time, we will not use irreversible methods. After the task is completed, only one more simple operation will be needed to fully restore you," the doctor assured. James Bond nodded and began to undress. At that moment, Nova's voice came from outside. "To save time, I will play the message of your new identity for you now. These messages will be directly implanted in your brain, but you still need to use them flexibly. Now, follow my train of thought. Your new name is Sunil Chetri, a wealthy businessman from the planet Kuat." "You should know I'm not wearing any clothes, ma'am," James Bond said flatly. "Do you think I should praise you?" Nova replied with a hint of sarcasm. "I mean, it's a pity we don't know much about each other," James Bond smiled. "And I know a lot about you since you first appeared in front of me," Nova said. "Don't forget, every ghost is an excellent telepath. I'm curious what my inner world looks like from your perspective. Anyway, it's not something that makes me happy, although it's not disgusting," Nova responded. The doctor's voice interjected. "Okay, we can begin. First, I'll inject a filler between your vertebra, which will be made of exactly the same material as the bone after it's fixed. This will change your height from 1.78 meters to 1.85 meters. As he spoke, the medical robot began to insert several needles directly into James's spine. Hiss, this is not the no pain you just mentioned. James Bond gritted his teeth, holding back the pain. On the other side, Nova continued, ignoring James's discomfort. Remember your identity, Sunil Chetri, a Kati, 57 years old, born on the planet Kuat. Now on Duro, you have just started a business called Vale Industrial Processing Co., specializing in the production of engineering tractor beam generators. You are about to expand your business through some not-so-legal avenues, and then the details of your life, your wife is. The doctor continued his work with the assistance of the medical robots. Next, we will adjust your shoulder width, arm length, and foot models. When you walk with this identity, you have a bad habit of turning your left foot inward, which is related to an injury in your early years. So your foot model also needs to be adjusted according to this habit. The way the Kati people speak in the capital district, they enunciate every word clearly, which means there is no ending sound at all. You can understand that the end of each word is a silent sound. You need to get used to this way of speaking within 3 hours, Nova continued. Then, there is skin tone. I will direct crease the melanin content in your skin so that your skin tone matches that of the Kati people. Your face shape also needs to be adjusted. My suggestion is to make your face rounder, the doctor added. Remember, you will provide the middleman with a batch of unregistered 500,000-ton tractor beams, and the price can be 1/5 of the market price, Nova instructed. How to change the shape of your gums without destroying your bone structure. I happen to have the latest technology here. The latest product of Umbrella Pharmaceutical Group. The doctor trailed off, focusing on his work. A luxurious shuttle land, dead on the planet Bis, located in the core circle of the galaxy. As the cabin door opened, a Kati man in his 50s, dressed in a gorgeous robe, emerged. He was tall, but his left foot moved awkwardly, giving him a slightly splayed appearance. This man was none other than James Bond. Behind him were 2 bodyguards, a burly man with dreadlocks and sunglasses, and a woman with blonde hair tied back, dressed professionally and holding a personal terminal. The man, a black ghost agent named Gabriel Tosh, exuded an intimidating presence. The woman, also a ghost agent, was Nova, who looked every bit the efficient secretary. Don't startle the snake. I've noticed some dark Jedi Knights patrolling. Nova's voice echoed in the minds of the other 2. The Galactic Republic is increasingly using voodoo powers. They don't have the restrictions of the Jedi Order, Tosh remarked. So you better watch yourself, Tosh. Your fragile nerves can't withstand a blow from a Jedi Knight, Nova retorted coldly. Even now, there aren't many Jedi Knights who can hurt me, Tosh replied confidently. In short, if you get into trouble, no one will save you, Nova warned. I'd appreciate it if you stopped flirting in my head, James Bond sighed. They made their way to a bar that appeared ordinary from the outside, but was heavily guarded. James Bond handed a card with a credit ingot to the doorman. The doorman discreetly pocketed the ingot, scanned the card, and nodded upon seeing Sunil Chetri's information. As James Bond continued inside, another guard tried to stop Nova and Tosh. Tosh roughly pushed the guard aside, giving him a hard look that sent chills down the doorman's spine, even through his sunglasses. In a small room, a bisman with 2 bodyguards awaited them. This person is not the middleman. First, you need to get the middleman to show up. He may have something to do with the mysterious hyperspace device, Nova communicated. Chapter 1644, Lurking, Part 2. James Bond approached the bisman with a careless demeanor, a hint of contempt in his cold snort. Humph, the bisman. Hello, Mr. Sutley, the bisman responded with a smile. Chetri, if there are any more mistakes or temptations, you'll have to find another way. I'll just be enjoying a concert on the planet Rebus, James Bond said coldly. This is not a lucrative business for us, Mr. Chetri, the bisman replied, waving his hand. A bodyguard next to him immediately took out a piece of metal and placed it on the table. This contains about 20 grams of neutron star matter. The quarter-power dockyard uses this to build the armor of the Cheer-class assault landing ship, making it immune to most artillery fire, even without shields. This material is not available on the market, which means it comes with a sky-high price. However, James Bond pushed the piece of metal aside with a credit ingot and said indifferently, "Don't try to fool me with this. I don't care if it's neutron star or white dwarf material. Where can I sell this? Back to Kuwait. Then the next day, I'll be invited by the Republic's Ministry of Security for a visit. It seems you still don't understand the value of this extracted neutron star material, Mr. Chetri, the Bisman said. I just want cash, credit ingots, and don't try to fool me with the credit notes issued by the Republic, James Bond said, clearly irritated and lacking the patience to sit down and talk. Your request is a bit unreasonable, Mr. Chetri, the Bisman said. Listen to me. James Bond slammed his hands on the table, his voice vicious. A 500,000-ton tractor beam is already weapon-level equipment. Tell the person behind you that I need to know you have the financial resources and normal needs. I don't want my products ending up on a pirate ship one day. Credit ingots are impossible, Mr. Chetri. I can increase the price appropriately so that our cooperation may continue, the Bisman said. Let your boss talk to me. You can't make any decisions. James Bond stood up and threw the credit ingot he had just held in front of the Bisman, as if giving a beggar a tip. Here's your tip. You're welcome. Without any hesitation, he turned and left. He took out the neutron star material just now to test you, James. Normal businessmen wouldn't be interested in this stuff. Those interested in neutron star matter would only be separatists. Nova's voice sounded in his mind. What is the origin of this middleman you found? James Bond began to learn to speak in his head, lowering his guard so that Nova and Tosh's telepathy could know. A dark broker. Simply put, his job is to find low-priced sources and supply them to places that urgently need them, selling at high prices. But the problem is that a broker like him dares to do almost any business. We contacted him for a batch of 500,000-ton tractor beams, and it's conservatively estimated that he can earn 5 million credits every time he enters and exits, Nova said. Is it still too late for me to change my career? James Bond said with a smile. You would do it better than him, Gabriel Tosh said. At this moment, one of the Bisman's bodyguards approached quickly. Gentlemen, please stay, he said, reaching out to grab Tosh. But Tosh reacted super fast, grabbing the bodyguard's neck accurately and lifting him up without even turning his head. My boss wants to talk to you, the Bisman said, making a respectful gesture of invitation. Looking in the direction he indicated, James Bond saw a blurred holographic projection in the room. You finally showed me a little sincerity, but not much, James Bond said as he walked over. Proceeding with caution is the life-saving talisman of our profession, said the person shrouded in shadow in the holographic projection. The projection's voice clearly sounded altered, as if through a voice changer. Heh, the Corellians? James Bond sneered. Despite the voice change, he could still discern the accent from the rhythm of the speech. Very perceptive, the first man replied. Now that I'm here, you should tell me why you think you can impress me. My company can build a 500,000-ton tractor beam. That's why, James said confidently. Let's talk about it calmly. For this mission, we really built a few 500,000-ton tractor beams that look like modified goods, Nova communicated telepathically. Your company's qualifications only allow for the construction of 20,000-ton grades, the broker countered. In the entire Galactic Republic, there are no more than 10 companies qualified to produce 500,000-ton tractor beams. You can go to them to place an order. James Bond sneered again. A 500,000-ton tractor beam can easily tow a Jaeger-class battlecruiser that has lost power. If pirates get their hands on it, any transport ship caught by this beam wouldn't even have a chance to struggle. What I care about is your company's technical strength, the broker said. I brought a sample. You can inspect it at any time, James replied. This is assembled from parts I bought from a group of Trandoshan scavengers, all disassembled from battleships. The military-grade components are absolutely reliable. If you provide enough money, I can even give you 2 million-ton ones. Very good. I need 100 of the 500,000-ton class beams. If your price is right, I'll take the 2 1-million-ton ones too, the broker exclaimed. You also know that these things are all illegally modified, so I want to pay with credit ingots at 1/5 of the market price. I don't have that many credit ingots, but I do have a lot of credit notes from the Republic. I can also exchange them for other things, the broker offered. And I need a guarantee that my products will not be resold to pirates, James emphasized. Don't lie to me. With 100 tractor beams, you could completely arm an entire pirate fleet. The broker thought for a moment. Somewhere, a series of large projects are underway. I can give you some information. The scale of these projects is enormous, and the materials involved are just a drop in the bucket. Besides, this is a project of Kuat Power Dock. I'm from the planet Kuat. Why didn't I know about this? And Kuat Power Dock. Don't kid me. They still lack tractor beams. Huh, James Bond said, turning around and walking away.